elections, that there were some sponsored posts and trolls to magnify certain messages online. Hence the warning, because the war now is beyond being physical. There's a media war, yes. And you would see it's subtle in some ways, and in some forms it is overt. So for us as Nigerians, we must also watch out for these targeted messages to fuel the agenda of a particular nation or a particular interest. This is our election. We must protect the sanctity of our democracy and our sovereignty as a nation. And so thank you very much to the President for reiterating this call. And we hope, like you said, Rufai, that the nations will heed to this call. Moving on to the next story. Electoral body INEC has extended the deadline for the collection of permanent voters' cards, or PVCs, by 8 days. Collection of cards will now continue until Saturday, 29th January. Collection at the ward level has been extended by 1 week from Monday, 16th January to Sunday, 22nd January. The Commission says it is encouraged by the turnout of registered voters and the surge in the number of collected PVCs across the country. It says in some states, as many as 100,000 PVCs were collected in the last 5 days since the devolution to ward level started last week. Meanwhile, INEC says it's investigating allegations of extortion by its officials at some collection centers around the country. The Commission says those found culpable will face disciplinary action on prosecution. The Labour Party's Presidential Campaign Council has also accused INEC staff of deliberately slowing down the pace of PVC distributions to Nigerians. And some Nigerians around the country have criticized what they call the long and difficult process in getting their cards. I'm glad we're going to be speaking about this, Rufai, this morning, and that INEC has extended collection of PVCs.
Kudos to INEC, but the truth is they had no choice. Because when you look at it, you cannot disenfranchise millions of people. I'm sure if they had not extended, a lot of people would have, at some point next week, probably gone to court and seek legal redress. Because between June and July, we had over 9 million people registered, 13 million people added to the register in this first process, although some people have been put out because of multiple registration and all of that. But give or take, you still have a fair amount of people out there, and these people want to vote. And these people are excited by their candidates, so they have a right to be able to vote. And the only best thing to do was to be able to extend it. But people should also watch the extension. The extension was 16th to 22nd, still going to be at the ward level. So the question is, how easy is this for you to collect at the ward level? I understand that there's a certain portal for INEC in Lagos alone, and I don't know for other parts. I think on their Instagram page, on their social media page, where you can scan a QR code and they'll tell you exact word.
Yes.
All right? So if you do that, you scan your QR, they'll tell you exact what. You go there and you get in queue, get there on time to be able to pick it up. Whatever you do, you must be able to pick it up. But that's for the ward level. But the extension now goes back to the local government. I think from the 22nd to the 29th, you go back to the local government. So this is ample time, 1 week on top of this, for you to be able to go out there and pick up your PVC. And also, INEC needs to look inward. There have been cases and allegations. In fact, the face of one prominent extortionist INEC staff was put out there on social media. We've had cases of people say, okay, you want to collect for you and your wife, bring 10,000 naira. And it is so sad we do this in this country. And we did it across board. Even remember when COVID vaccines came out? You remember how people were paying to get COVID vaccines? And we bust that story here. So please, INEC, you should also have people within your ranks to be able to evaluate. And if you want to catch thief, it's not by you saying, oh, report them. No. There's something we call mystery shopper in marketing. If I want to test the validity or the sales of my products, I have a mystery shopper go in there. So you should also have mystery PVC collectors that can scrutinize the process and be able to apprehend people like that. At least we did it in customs. You remember when the new customs man in charge of this custom office here, immigration, office here, came in Ikoyi. He did that and he caught some people and he transferred them. So when we do more of that, we'll be able to get a hang of it. But it's a good one. Nigerians, now you have the chance, because this is a brilliant chance to change your country. Like I said this morning, a couple of tweets I put out there. I said, fellow countrymen, this is the best time we have to be able to bring back glory days. Some people have argued that do we ever have glory days? I say yes. To be able to bring back glory days that hitherto the palmer worm and the canker worms have been destroying our fruits of glory. and it's only elections. And please don't let anybody deceive you. These elections will count. If elections are not going to count, you will see politicians will not care about your votes. But they care about your vote. They are buying PVCs, they are stockpiling and manipulating because they know elections count. And the greatest weapon in the hands of every politician is you not turning out on election day to vote. So it's not just collecting your PVCs, you must vote.
Yes.
A certain candidate for House of Rep told me that you had in Etiosa, the constituents, he had over 300,000 voters and less than 50,000 people voted. You don't have a right to complain if over 300,000 people sat down at home. The elite class that keeps on saying you want to change Nigeria, this is not the time to take a vacation and travel to the UK and go and sit down and say, oh, vacation. I fear violence in the Nigeria electoral process. You are worse than people that are doing evil in the country. If you do that, abandon your country during elections and say, I fear violence, let me just go and sit down in the UK. And it's so easy for you because you have properties in the UK. This is your own country. Please sit down. If all of us can vote, we can truly change our country and we can vote wisely, scrutinize the candidates.
Brilliant, absolutely. Now, like you said, let me start from where you stopped in terms of people who deliberately move out of the country or just move themselves from the electoral process because of fear of violence. The truth is that, like you said, one of the very effective ways of ensuring that we tackle these things collectively is through our votes and by voting. You have a civic responsibility to vote as a Nigerian citizen. Now, just a few things around information. You can actually check your status as to whether you're on the registration on the register by going to cvr.inecnigeria.org. You can check your status very quickly. And then, like Rufai said, as well, to add to that, there are numbers you can actually send your name, your local government area, and they'll send you, and your ward, and they'll send you where you should go and pick up. So I tested it and it worked. By text message, they'll charge you your normal text rate, and then they'll send back to you where you should collect. I found my primary school where I'm supposed to collect, so that's on the side.
Have you collected?
Well, because I'm going to collect on Monday.
On Monday, okay,
yes.
Good.
So I'm very grateful that I'm still going to be able to collect at the ward level. I already prepped myself to go to my local government area, but definitely we're all in this, and it's become such a big thing that people put up on social media like a celebration. Once you pick up your PVC, you go online and you take a picture with it because it's an achievement. And like we said before, that beyond collecting your PVCs, ensure that you actually go out on election day. Now, away from that, INEC is doing their sensitization campaign. I also want to call on religious organizations, private organizations, and other organizations to work hand in hand to enable and encourage their members to go out there and get their PVCs. It's not enough for the government or INEC alone to raise this, to mobilize people to collect. I recall, Rufai, that when they were registering, when there was a registration process going on, churches, mosques were preaching about this in their congregation and asking people, without being partisan, without telling them who to vote for, just to be aware of their civic responsibility. I believe that there's a multi-stakeholder approach that can be done to encourage, because the numbers are abysmal. The numbers of people who are going to collect their PVCs compared to those who registered are disappointing.
Yes.
We cannot complain later on if we're not encouraging our members. So there was also a time when organizations were giving days off to their staff members to go out and register. In the same vein, can we appeal to you to give your staff time that is concentrated, that is just particularly encouraging them to go out and get their PVCs? Because many people will say because they close work late, the offices are open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. This is within working hours. Yes, they're open on Saturday and Sunday, but why don't you contribute to the growth of this nation by encouraging your staff members to go out there and pick their PVCs, run competitions? The stake, our nation is at stake. We're trying to redeem a nation here. And so whatever it takes, we all must take on that responsibility to do so. Preach it in your churches, take on billboards, put on there and encourage. Let us see it everywhere. Have you gotten your PVC? Do you have your PVCs? And then closer to election time, mobilize your members as well to go out there and vote. You don't have to be partisan. Don't tell them who to vote for. Just ensure that every Nigerian participates in the electoral process. And I think we'll continue to monitor this in the few days to come in terms of how people are picking up. But let me just mention the top states in terms of picking up are Cross River State, Plateau, and Enugu State. Lagos obviously is not anywhere close, and we must Lagos.
And it's sad.
It's really
7 million voters, but they don't come out to vote. It will be a miracle if you get 3 million people that vote out of the 7 million registered.
Operation 3 million PVCs collected, or 5 million. Can we do that?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we can do it. Yeah.
So the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission will remove the former Director General of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council, Doyin Okupe, from its watch list following his arrest in Lagos. Okupe was arrested and then released by the Department of State Services at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. He has reportedly been on the EFCC's watch list for 6 years. The DSS cited his cooperation with the EFCC as the reason for Okupe's arrest. In December, Okupe was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for breaching the Money Laundering Act. All right, so I hear apologies have been made. But
but apologies are not good enough, because when the news spreads, the apology doesn't spread as fast. So it's also incumbent on the right authorities to make the apologies public, not just somebody making the apologies in silos. What was the issue? Mr. Doyin Okupe was going abroad for his medical checkup. He was stopped by the DSS. The DSS issued an alert. The story went viral that it was intercepted. They handed him over to EFCC. They said, oh, we're sorry that you've been on the watch list for over 6 years for something that has been largely cleared, and the watch list was not updated.
Since December 19th.
Yeah, and that led to this embarrassment. So now they're just saying they'll update the watch list. What structural incompetence is that? What structural incompetence is that? And you do that at the expense of people. You damage their names because you can't update your systems. And you're the quickest to share this story. And that's why I said the apology didn't go far enough, because the apology was just made in silo. Was even an apology made in the first place? Was it a public apology? Because the tweet by Doyin Okupe just said it was just somebody within, I think one of the officers that said we apologize. No. There has to be an institutional apology. Let's learn to do things right. If the man has been cleared off the watch list, why don't you put him off the watch list? And how many more people have their cases been decided and are still on the watch list? Because when this floats around, there's an embarrassment. And you can't take back the effect on the personality of the person. There are a lot of people that have been put on watch lists, they've been taken off, and arrests were made, again, based on the fact that they were on the watch list, and it's tainted their character and their image. So things should be done properly. Apart from the cocoon apology, it should be made to be done properly. And all of this is also a big deal because it's politics season. But here we will get to the nitty-gritty. What are the facts of the matter? These are the facts of the matter we have said. The fact of the matter, I was arrested by the DSS, taken to EFCC. EFCC said, we are sorry. We did not know that this has been cleared. We should take you off the watch list. That's the fact of the matter. Because we've seen a lot of political spin to it. And that's why we say, see, rather than political spin this season, let us dwell on the issues. It's a time of a lot of political spin. That's the way politics work anyway. But can we have a new set of thinking of politics where we can talk about things that will grow our nation? Because we fail to realize that 2023 election is a fight for the soul of Nigeria. If Nigeria will continue its abyss of hopelessness, your vote will determine that. And if it will be redeemed with renewal of hope, your vote will determine that. And if it will be a better day for our country, it is you that will determine that. No other person will fix your country for you. So let's focus on the main important issues this campaign season. So I think we've cleared that.
Yes, we've cleared that. Thank you. I mean, not a lot to add to that. Just to mention that he was convicted on December 19. He was ordered to serve a custodial sentence of 2.5 years, or in lieu of that, a fine, which he has paid. And this happened because they said they did not update the watch list. We've spoken to this. And you malign the character of a person, discredit his person. In reports, it was said the immediate former DG of the campaign of the Labour Party. So there are far-reaching implications.
Oh, yes.
It's not just on the person of Mr. Doyin Okupe. It's also, number one, his track record, his integrity, and of course, the integrity of the party that he belongs to.
Yeah.
At the risk of politicizing this, we must politicize it because this is election season. And like I said earlier on about disinformation, we also found in reports that disinformation is not just from foreign actors. The main culprits, according to that report I mentioned from Facebook, based on the analysis, are from our local actors, people who sponsor false news, who ensure that news like this make the headlines across different platforms. But apologies like this are made in private. I hope that the EFCC, who had put him on the watch list and who have now come to say was erroneous, would apologize to him publicly. I doubt it very much, but I'm hoping that they would take out one or two headlines themselves to let the public know, because this is a public figure, he's a public personality, and he has his reputation at stake. Naturally, or ideally, he would sue for libel. He will sue for defamation of character. But I doubt very much if he will go ahead with that, just so that they settle things amicably. But again, you pointed out something really important, Rufai, in terms of how many more Nigerians who do not have a name or status, who have been wrongfully accused, wrongfully arrested, and just detained, and then also, sorry, we made an error. Too many stories that shouldn't happen.
Trust me.
Should clean up their books.
You don't want to go to Nigerian prisons. Goodness me.
Well, that's all on the news headlines. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Michael Wilson to give us updates on global business activities. Stay with us.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business, we vote. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business, we vote.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Yesterday I got a call from Globe. I won a 3-bedroom bungalow.
Yes, guys! Guess what? I won a car. I won a generator by participating in the Festival of Joy promo by Glow.
Hey, Glow don't do this one for me. Glow to make it set to me with sewing machine.
I won generator last year. This year I won for
It's a celebration like no other, with prizes like no other. 20 new houses to be won, 24 brand new cars, 200 sewing machines, 100 generators, 1,000 rechargeable fans. Glow Festival of Joy promo. Dial *611# now.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from Cape Town, South Africa. Good morning, Michael.
Asia markets marginally higher this morning, much cooler than expected inflation figures from the United States yesterday. Of course, equities to rise from China, Hong Kong, and also Australia. The only one that didn't was the Nikkei in Tokyo. The reason for that being that inflation is on the move in that particular country. As far as China concerned, its trade figures, imports and exports fell, but less than expected. Trade grew overall in 2022. Exports fell at 9.9%. They've been expected to fall by about 10%. Again, it's just sort of pushing at this revival after the COVID lockdown. But one very important thing I've pulled out for you this morning is that the Chinese government is moving back appears to be moving back at least from big regulations on big tech companies, and instead taking what the financial markets call a golden share. What that means is it's not an enormous share in a company, but it's held by a government. And what it does is the government is able to therefore take decisions about whether or not to support the business decisions which the companies themselves are taking. So it's called a golden share. So it's a slight movement away from straightforward regulation and sanctions into a slightly more corporate way of guiding their big corporates in China. It's also likely that the China reopening will help the Hong Kong property market. Office rents are rising there, as are premises for high street stores, and people also are looking at the knockdown price of apartments and wondering whether they ought to be buying. So that's helping. Let's move to South Korea. They are the biggest buyers of luxury personal goods, and it's not the spending on those personal goods rose 24% last year. So it's per capita spending of about $325. That's an average per head, and this is also about increase in purchasing power, but also, as it's put here on the wires, outwardly exhibits social standing. In other words, showing off a bit with nice handbags and all the rest of it. The US recap then, I did tell you about those inflation figures that we had from the United States. Again, the future's not doing a great deal. The markets were enlivened by the inflation figures slightly cooler yesterday, but...
Hi, Michael. Hey, Michael? Okay, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back and we'll sort things out with Michael Wilson. We'll be right back. Okay, we'll go back to Michael Wilson right now. Michael, great to have you. Continue, please, Michael. We can hear you. Okay, you were talking about the US recap, Michael. You can continue from there.
Okay, certainly, yes. South Korea retail, actually, I was talking about. I was saying that that's risen about 24%. That's risen considerably, and this is a way in which the South Koreans are actually proving the biggest spenders in personal luxury items. So let's go back to the United States then. And stock futures are relatively flat this morning. Again, something to do with the rise yesterday, obviously after those cooler inflation figures, but also because the big bank reporting season starts today, and no doubt the banks will have a lot to say about spending, about higher interest rates, and then maybe moving towards lower interest rates. So they will give a useful look at where they feel the economy's going. I'm going to move on to Apple CEO Tim Cook. He asked for a 40% reduction in his salary, and he got it. This is all part of a sort of touchy-feely approach that senior executives are giving. Institutional investors are not liking some of the rewards which their CEOs within their invested companies actually get, and so he's been acting straight away. So his compensation cut by 40%. Brazil now, and the new administration there, Lula elected a couple of weeks ago, and they're having to come to terms with a deficit of $45 billion. They want to turn that round in the next year or so. I say year or so simply because the central bank governor there said he'd be satisfied with a deficit of 1% of GDP by the end of the year. This will involve spending cuts. Yes, spending cuts, and also tax rises. Again, whether or not Brazil will be able to cope with that, we shall see. But that's what the intention is. As far as the UK is concerned, there's been a ransomware attack on the Royal Mail now, as if it wasn't having enough problems already. This is affecting overseas deliveries. Not exactly sure what the ransomware attack is, but the suspicion is it's a ransomware attack which is called Lockbit. It has Russian connections as well, but nothing has been confirmed from the Royal Mail so far. The UK is getting possibly a windfall. The Treasury is getting a windfall from falling energy prices, maybe as much as £10 billion. 11.1 billion as a result of maybe not having to pay so much in terms of the energy support scheme, but some of that will be taken up. So the net amount, maybe into the Treasury, is £10 billion, and that therefore has a direct effect on the inflation figures, which should be 5.5% if all this is correct by the end of this year, by the end of 2023. And we should also mark that Christmas actually was very good news for the likes of Marks and Spencer, Tesco, and Sainsbury's. Most of those sales up 7% as far as those companies are concerned, and really it shows that maybe there's a bit of spending out there as well. Oil has extended its gains. WTI is flirting with $80 a barrel right now. A weaker dollar as a result of maybe the Fed slightly shallowing its rate of interest rate rises is helping that. Gold is testing the 1900 level. Basically because it could go higher. Of course, it tends to be a safe haven when inflation starts to rise. We've seen it slightly cooling off in the United States, but it's felt that if 1900 were to be breached, then $2,000 an ounce could be next. And Bitcoin, finally, on those slightly cooler inflation figures, has jumped to about 19,000. It's the first time since last November it was kind of that level, up to $19,000, cooling, and also it's digesting the fact that lawyers apparently, as I was telling you yesterday, have reclaimed a bit of the FTX liquid assets, about $500 to $600 billion worth. That is the global view this morning.
All right, thank you so much for that. So does this mean that investors are looking at Bitcoin again after the FTX issue that is still going on? Does that mean that confidence is being restored? And let's also look at gold, for instance, at 19,000 pushing up to, at 1,900 pushing up to 2,000. Does that mean that prediction of probably hitting 3,000 might be on the horizon because crude oil prices are slumping and not looking any good?
Yeah, I would hesitate to bet about gold, quite honestly. All I'm telling you is what's happening right now. Yeah, that prediction of 3,000. I mean, it might happen. I suspect it's probably slightly less likely, as it does appear now that what the United States was saying about inflation peaking in June last year at 9.1%, that might be correct, which means that if there's a downward trajectory towards inflation, then it makes the necessity to flee to gold as a safe haven less likely, but who knows? I'd hesitate to say that. All I can tell you is that now, if it gets to 1900, the market is sort of saying that 2000 could be next. 3000 to me seems a long way away. As far as Bitcoin's concerned, I honestly think that there is a long way to go. I mean, look, the Bankman-Fried trial is not going to be until October, is it? So we won't know the full extent of this. I don't think it necessarily makes Bitcoin more investable. I mean, I still think that the debate continues about whether it's a financial asset or not, or whether it's just like a casino. And I mean, as I've said, I'd like to be proved wrong on this. All I know is that I feel as though when the blockchain payment system is being used, then I'd feel more confident, and we didn't notice it, then I'd feel more confident about things like Bitcoin and so on. But that's not to say that governments themselves are not pressing ahead, as you know, with their own cryptocurrencies, although these are very different. These are called stable coins, aren't they? Backed by foreign currencies and also by gold as well. So it's moving in that direction. But I just merely quoted it as part of the developing market day by day, really.
All right, 2 questions for you, Michael. First, I'd like you to a closer examination on ransomware and its impact on communications and businesses in the UK, bearing in mind that the Royal Mail is a critical national infrastructure. Yes, I know that ransomware typically it's a menace for a number of organizations on a daily basis, but for the Royal Mail, that's quite significant. And bearing in mind that it's also used as an avenue to extort money from certain organizations for asking them to transfer cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin to an anonymous digital wallet, and the UK now Royal Mail sending out an advisory as to letters and communication. What's the bigger impact for Royal Mail and, of course, the UK? And then going on to Tim Cook's requesting for a pay cut of up to 40%, and the fact that, yes, he's the one who's requested for it, but this could also indicate other internal issues. The board members are said to be asking for his equity reward to be based on performance now. What's your take on this? Just a broader view on this, please.
I'm looking at what the board was saying about Tim Cook, and they say that they're very pleased with his performance, and he has given Apple long-term confidence, and I think that's really enough. I think what he's doing, and let's face it, a 40% cut, he's still taking home quite a lot of money. I feel as though there is a move, as I was saying, amongst institutional investors to see the senior executives taking perhaps less out of their companies. But this is it's not got a woke thing, but I mean it's the fashion these days, and I think Tim Cook, has taken the right kind of move. But he's hardly going to be begging at your local wherever people on your local streets as a result of losing 40% of his pay. He's still very well paid indeed. Ransomware, yes, the Royal Mail is a critical part of the nation's infrastructure, and again, we don't know a lot of detail about this, because one of the thoughts about ransomware is that the less publicity it actually attracts, the better the negotiating thing actually is. And again, as a result of that cloak of secrecy, all I do know is that the idea of cybersecurity is something which all boardrooms are thinking about, of large companies are thinking about very, very seriously indeed. How they do that is down to their own security. But it just illustrates that every company can fall victim to this kind of thing. And it is becoming a bigger concern, I think, to senior executives, and quite right too.
All right, Michael, I just want to ask you this about the UK economy. With the sales increase, obviously because of the Yuletide season and all of that, does it mean that things are probably looking up? Does it mean that the economy has that level of vitality in terms of, purchasing power to be able to go out and spend on the economy? Does it look like a resurgence, or it's just another smoke screen that probably will give Rishi Sunak a little sense of triumphalism for now, and afterwards it's going to whack him down when he feels like he has everything under control?
I think it's the Christmas effect. I don't think it's anything more than that. I don't know, because I'm not a retailer. And I think you're right in a sense. You should reflect what happened over that particular period against what happens in the leaner months of January and February, to be absolutely sure about this. But it's interesting that all those, the two grocers and the grocer-stroke retailer, which is Marks and Spencer, saw revenues, sales increase by round about the same figure, around about 7%. So it does show that maybe people are saving up, for special occasions. But I still feel the cost of living crisis is not over. And I don't think the results are anything more than Christmas actually showing itself. And I think that retail is very good at reinventing itself, and clearly now is the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Valentine's Day is in a few days, so that's something special for retailers like Marks and Spencer and the likes to look forward to. Well, thank you very much, Michael, and have a great weekend. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we shall be talking to Dele Farutimi, spokesperson of the Obi Dati Presidential Campaign Council. Stay with us.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
My brother, my sister, do you know that winning an election is not only about getting the majority vote? For that your candidate to be declared winner of the election, he or she must secure 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all states, plus the FCT to be president, and 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all local governments of a state to be governor. This is constitutional, and every presidential candidate has had to pass this threshold. Even governors have had to make this mark to get elected in their states. We live in one country with different languages, religions, and ethnic groups. This is why it is not enough to have only northern votes, or southern votes, or eastern votes, or western votes. The only way to get elected as president or governor is by gaining enough support across the country and states. Let us make sure that we know now, so that we don't cause an issue tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO.
Set to take the African continent and the world by storm. They are giants in every sense of the word, and they will bring entertainment that's just as big. Don't miss the first ever season of Big Brother Titans with two African giants, Naija and Nsamse, under Biggie's roof together. Big Brother Titans starts on Sunday, 15th of January on DSTV 198, GoTV 29, and Africa Magic. Headline sponsor, Bamboo, Flutterwave, and Lotto Star.
Right, welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. One common thing during this election season is the plethora of promises by presidential candidates across the party lines, from repositioning the economy, fighting insecurity, to improving the educational sector in Nigeria. A whole lot of promises are being made during campaign season. On Thursday, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, declared that he will end industrial action in Nigerian universities and other tertiary institutions. Situation he claimed had crippled the university education system. Obi spoke at the University of Nigeria Nsukka Business Interactive session titled State of the Nigeria Economy, The Way Forward, held at the Central Bank of Nigeria University at auditorium, I should say, at the Enugu campus of UNN. Labour Party presidential candidate also advised Nigerians not to hand over the mandate of governing a sick country like Nigeria to a sick man. So joining us now on this morning show to discuss Peter Obi's visit to Enugu is Dele Farotimi, spokesperson of the Obidati Presidential Campaign Council. He'll be discussing also the arrest of the immediate past Director General of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council, Doyin Okupe, by the Department of State Department of State Services. Welcome to the show. Real quickly, let's go straight to it this morning, because a lot of people are also saying, let's fact check. They said in his speech while in the university, he said in his time there were no strikes, and a lot of people said, oh, while Obi was still in school, that you have had the Ali Must Go riots, that had segued into a lot of things. And how is he going to end the incessant strikes that pretty much have dogged our university system since the 80s? Or some people like to count the first official strike from the late 80s, the Babangida debacle, up till now. So those are two things to put forward there. We weigh all sides of the conversation.
No.
Yeah.
It's only right that journalists should ask questions.
Yeah.
And it is only proper that society should be informed by the questions and the answers that will be provided by the candidates or anyone who is looking for political office. So these questions are right, and they should be asked. To answer the question related to fact-checking, I don't understand what universe some people live in. But I grew up in Ibadan, and one of the areas where I grew up in Ibadan was the University of Ibadan. I went to Abadina Primary School in UI.
Great Abadina.
Yes. And I lived across the road from the campus at Olorogun Junction. So I can speak to an extent about the university system that must have nurtured Peter Gregory Obi. When he said there were no strikes in his days, I would say that is factually correct. Factually correct because strikes were few and far between, and the Ali Must Go to which they refer wasn't an ASU strike. It wasn't the academics on strike. As far as I can remember, it was a student strike. And as of that time, the Nigerian state responded to that strike exactly as it has always responded to every challenge to its autocracy. It killed, it murdered. My first contact with the Nigerian state was during the Ali Must Go riot, and it was me sniffing tear gas. So when they speak about strikes in the 70s, particularly in the 70s and the 80s, they speak ignorantly, because we're talking about a situation today where students are at home for upward of 9 months. We're talking about a situation today where the universities are functionally higher secondary schools, if the truth be told. So if they should not be comparing apples and oranges, compare apples and apples. When Gregory Peter Obi said there were no strikes in his days, he is completely correct, and I stand by that. There is nowhere in the world where you will not have industrial disagreements. But nothing of the sort that we are having today. If it was in those days that somebody would dare to go on strike and shut down the universities for a month, this country would have been grounded to a halt. Even in my own days in the universities in the 90s, this level of nonsense would not have been tolerated and allowed to become normal in our space. So let them not be speaking to that. And there was something you said in your intro that Peter Obi claimed that the university system more or less destroyed. That's not a claim. That's a fact. There is nowhere in the world where people understand the fact that education is an investment in the future of that country and in the youth of that country, where something as intolerable as 9 months closure, and that is normal because the children of everyone making the policies, including myself, our children are not in the Nigerian universities. It is the poor who send their children to Nigerian universities, and nobody cares about them anymore. If I had been born in this generation, I would never have entered the four walls of a university. And I met the rump of the destroyed university system. So when he said, it's not a claim, it is a fact. But the unfortunate thing is that that is not confined to the educational sector. We're not dealing with sectoral failures in Nigeria any longer. We're dealing with systemic collapse. That is the reality that is staring us in the face. We keep using all these euphemisms in place of the real words that should communicate the reality of our situation. The educational system is completely unfit for purpose. The reality is you actually have to retrain, reorient. It's not just the educational system. We can have these farcical gyrations about sectoral failures, or we can look at our abject nudity in the mirror that is before us and admit to the fact that the system has collapsed. So it's not a claim, it's a fact.
So how will he prevent this that have been going on for a while?
No,
strikes. How will he stop? Because he made a promise that he's going to stop strikes.
No, it's a simple enough thing. It's a simple enough thing. And I'll take it from the macro level. If you, as a parent, as a husband, opens up the finances of the home to the point where there are no opacity, nobody is wondering what might be hidden under the table somewhere, is not like you have prioritized the well-being of the rulers whilst ignoring the welfare of the citizens who are non-existent in the current reality. If you open up the books, if the people understand that this is what the government has, and you prioritize based on the needs and the vision that you have for the future, nobody is going to demand that you should bring what you do not have.
Okay, so on the subject of money, which was what I was going to actually start with, education financing is huge. This present administration for the 2023 budget allocated 1.79 trillion to education, the second largest after defense and security. And very good, compared to the last. It still falls way below the United Nations recommendation of 26% of the budget. This was 8.2% of the entire budget. It is expensive to fund education. In fact, one of the main reasons for the strikes you're talking about, in terms of preventing the strikes, was more funding, ASU's agitation for more funding for universities, and also a review of salaries of lecturers. And the federal government is saying there's no money. And if your candidate does become president, he's going to be dealing with the repayment of 77 trillion naira loan. Where will he get the money to actualize this statement that he's made as to no strikes if he does become president?
You see, I am of the firm opinion that openness in governance is the first antidote to strife in the populace. When the populace have a clear understanding of exactly what the government is doing at any point in time, what are the financial resources available to the government, and how are these financial resources deployed? These are the reasons why the industrial actions either fizzle out or persist. That is one. When you look at our educational system, just as with every other sector of our national life, the reality, and I have said this way too often, but it bears repetition again, it has been destroyed almost beyond repair. You actually have to reimagine it. And in our educational sector, we would actually have no choice but to reimagine it. We have to ask ourselves exactly what is the purpose of education in the digital age. Exactly where are we preparing our children to go? Are we raising back into antiquity, or are we looking to catch up and bridge the gap that already exists? However much might have been voted to education, if you are still putting, for as long as you keep pouring water into a basket, no matter how much effort you put into your water fetching activity, the basket will not get filled up. We're dealing with a system that is patently unfit for purpose, riddled with corruption, and definitely not serving the future needs of the Nigerian people and the state itself. So first thing first, you need to take a look at our educational system. I'm in the construction industry to an extent, and I've been tangentially there for about the last 25 or so years, where I've serviced the real estate industry. And what I can tell you is this. In all of that time, 90% of the artisan class that works in construction in Lagos, don't let me generalize and say Nigeria, in Lagos, 90%, if not more, of the artisan class, from bricklayer to carpenters to tilers, plasterers, they are either from Ghana or from Togo or from the Benin Republic. Now, you might wonder, what does this have to do with education? That is part of the problem we have evolved for ourselves as a people. We've trained people who go to university to learn philosophy, to learn IRK, big Bible knowledge, but we don't have the capacity to train those who build nations. We cannot have engineers. It pains me when I look on our street, I see road constructions, I'm seeing third-grade expatriates brought from, as long as the skin is white, he is able to do the job, and yet we have engineers graduating all over the place and we have unemployment. These are the real issues that we would have to deal with. Take another look at our educational system. Why are we graduating illiterates, certificated idiots? I'm sorry to say, pardon my French, but the reality is that we are graduating people who do not have the capacity to deduce logically and who have been, in fact, what you have had, actually, if the truth be told, is a situation where the state has enabled weaponized ignorance. You are teaching people to be ignorant by the time they graduate so that you are able to dictate terms to them. Financing of education is not a cost, it's an investment. When governments see it as an investment, it means that they can anchor their vision for the future to whatever they are doing in the educational sector. When I was in school, we had woodwork workshops, there were metalworks workshops. What has happened to all of those? There were technical colleges. What has happened to them? What has happened to them? Cobblestone roads, we can't even build. That is 18th century technology. We cannot. Okay, thank you very much. I stand to be corrected. But the fact remains that we have built a system that is patently unfit for purpose. So whatever else Mr. Peter Gregory Obi might do or not do, we must understand that the cornerstone of whatever he's going to do will be openness so that the people understand exactly where we are, connect the people to the vision for that policy, because it's not just about education. We have systemic collapse. That's what we are facing.
Okay. Can the government honestly, and is this part of your plan, because I read your manifesto and I didn't see anything extensive, can the government honestly still fund university education in this country?
Now, let me say this.
And how much do you think it's going to cost? Have you been able to cost it in your plan?
Rufai, if anybody is telling you they have an exact idea of what they are going to find after the ruinous years of General Buhari and the APC, they will be lying to you. The only thing anyone can give you at this point are broad outlines and then their own integrity behind a plan to do better. What we see today is a situation where, whether we like it or not, government on its own cannot and should not be funding university education. This is my belief. I don't know what the ubiquity policy will be by the time they look at the realities, but I personally believe that the government should not be the exclusive funders of universities. This is without prejudice to the fact that there should be availability of students' loan. This is also without prejudice to the fact that there should be scholarships and interventionist funding for less privileged persons who are going to be attending those schools. And in any case, if you check out the costs that the country is already incurring, educating Nigerians outside of Nigeria who are largely lost to Nigeria by the time they are done with their education, you will realize that we would actually be subsidizing our own stupidity if we make sure that the government adequately funds education, whether that be by taxing us properly, whether that be by them stopping the leakages and the wastages that has overtaken our land. But education is an investment in the future.
All right. Okay, I just want to jump on that because whilst we're still speaking on education, and you mentioned student loan, I was going to ask you a question around that because the presidential candidate of the APC had talked about that, and it come under a lot of scrutiny. in terms of offering student loan to university students. The big question, of course, like I mentioned, and it's as if I keep talking about money, but because money is now a big deal for us in Nigeria because we have a revenue problem. So let me ask you, since you're saying that you'll be opting for and you're pushing for student loan scholarships, where would the funding for the student loan come from? Bearing in mind that in more prosperous nations like the US, the United Kingdom, where they offer student loans, it's still problematic for the students themselves in terms of repayment of these loans and not defaulting. So number one, where is the money going to come from? How are we going to fund it? And how do we secure the loans such that they'd be paid back to fund the next generation of students? That's on one side. Then in terms of the tertiary funding by tertiary tax, in the new Finance Act, they're proposing to raise the tertiary tax for private organizations. And this is, being kicked against because they say that they are overburdened with tax. Are you pushing? Are you saying that if your government, if Mr. Peter Obi does become president, this is going to be the policy? You'll stand by the increased tax rate for private organizations for tertiary?
Well, let me first of all clear something up. Like I've said earlier, compare apples with apples. When Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu speaks to student loans or anything, you've got to take that with a bucket of salt because the words and the actions really match up. This is the same person who sold us the dummy that is currently sat in front of everybody and that we've had to deal with for the last 7.5 years. So anything he says...
So I just like you to... it's
No, where you say, no, you can be sold a dummy. Okay. I'm saying that we were sold a dummy in 2015. And Mr. Buhari is sat in the presidency today, mostly by the grace of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. No matter how far he wishes to distance himself, he has even promised to run on the record and to continue the legacy of 9 months closure. So when he speaks to student loans and people necessarily question his sincerity, there is a basis. But when Mr. Peter Obi speaks, if he speaks to student loan, which I haven't said he spoke to, I said that is my own view. I am of the opinion that if you are going to properly fund education, you must also understand that all the funding is not going to come from government because you're still going to fund several other services. But if the people sees that the major line cost in governance is not the maintenance of legislators, governors, their spouses, their wives, is not about retinue of aides and all of that. If we can cut the waste in governance, you would have a whole lot of money coming from that to fund education and all the other social programs that are desired. As I have pointed out, it is almost impossible to speak with any credibility as to the finances of the Nigerian state today. Our central bank governor is nowhere to be found. The figures that he has put out are being questioned left and right. Nobody knows what is going on until anybody gets into power. So the second leg of your question is as it relates to education tax and all the other taxes that have been placed in the fiscal bill. It is right that corporations should kick as they are kicking. Because if all you ever do is to keep taking from me, spend irresponsibly, and then you keep insisting that I continue to subsidize the cost of governance stupidity, then I have a right to demand that I be treated more fairly. If you are asking people to tighten their belts, and your own belt is getting looser by the day, and I run, at least once upon a time, I ran some businesses, and I know that the biggest problem in the Nigerian space is the Nigerian government. Your interventions are, every time you come across the Nigerian government in your daily dealings, it occasions pain. So if somebody who is already battling the cost of energy, who is battling the cost of insecurity, who is battling the cost of human resources, as in real time, there is serious drainage in banks, in insurance companies. They are hemorrhaging good stuff. This country is bleeding its citizens out. We're going to Canada, New Zealand, everywhere but Nigeria. And then you are now bringing these additional costs. You say you are spending it on education. The same educational sector where you've already done a whole lot of inequities and that is already perpetually in turmoil. The spend is not correlative with the result. So they have a right to complain.
Okay, so I don't want us to even talk student loans. Okay. Because it's very dirty talking about it. When you check historically, we had a decree number 25 for the Student Loan Board on the 1st of September 1971 under Yakubu Gowon. So we've tried this rigmarole before. So when people come out and promise it, it sounds like a stupid argument to me because we've had a decree put out there, but nothing was done. Let's talk about funding. And that's why I'm going to ask you again, what methods? Because you see, we keep talking about university autonomy, and the argument during these 8 months ASUU strike is that the university are autonomous already. Each university has a senate, has its own board that makes money, that generate revenue. But the question is, can the tuition fees be increased to be able to make each university totally autonomous and to be able to feed in the bill? Because that's why I also ask you again, what are the costs on ground now that the government even spends on university education? You talked about over 1 trillion in the budget. What goes to university education in that? And the second question for me would be, the most important thrust of this education chain is primary and secondary education. As it is today, most Nigerians don't complete primary school. Primary school enrollment is dropping by the day. There was supposed to be a buffer for school feeding program to increase primary school enrollment, but we don't see how well that has worked. So what is your OB that you're supporting going to do about primary school and tertiary education and the full, autonomy of university education? Because if you give the university autonomy, people have argued, they can raise their money and run their university themselves, but tuition fee has to go up.
Well, you see, one of the biggest problems or challenges that we face is that we always have to compartmentalize Nigeria and then discuss sectors as though it were only those sectors that are afflicted by what we want to discuss. But the unfortunate reality is that that is not so. That a decree was declared in 1971 and has been observed more in breach, speaks to our problems. So we are not here because there is a paucity of laws. If anything, we have way too many laws. We are here because the goodwill to follow through on lofty ideals are never there. I have said again, because I have to be careful because I'm not speaking for Dele Farotimi. The question you have asked of me is essentially one for Mr. Gregory Obi and his administration. But what I do know is this. In a place that is governed by goodwill, that is governed by reason, nobody should need to be told that we are in a state of emergency, not just in the educational sector. Yes, I understand that we have to talk about education as though health, security, every other thing has not collapsed. But the education sector, as we have said, is an investment in the future, so it becomes an urgent issue. Now, if it is an urgent issue and everybody are not connected to it, it becomes almost impossible for it to be resolved. What I'm saying is that Mr. Peter Gregory Obi and all those associated with his campaign and seeking his mandate have a clear understanding of the fact that we are in a state of imminent collapse. Education is one of those things that would definitely receive multi-sectoral attention when the time comes. The fact that you've already referred to the moribundness of discussing student loans because of the fact that it's not like we don't have a law, but it's become something that we've discarded, tells you that if I sat down here and I was telling you, even though I've not been told to say so, that, there will be a student loans board better administered, based on what law? There is already one that is not being obeyed. For all I know, a look at these might suffice. It might very well be that it's one of those laws that have been saved and remains part of our extant law. I'm not sure. I don't know if you're a lawyer. I'm a lawyer and I'm careful about accepting that a law is still valid because for all I know, it might have been abrogated because it's a decree as well. So I really don't know. But I do know that even countries better endowed than us find ways to offer succor to students who might be unable to afford certain levels of education on their own and that the state is unwilling or unable to cover. However, you can construct a better system if you are willing to learn from the mistakes of others. That Americans have done it and is still there means that it's working to an extent. That it's got a problem like defaults and all of that does not mean that it can't be tweaked. If the American one is not working, what is happening with the Danish ones? Are the Norwegian ones working? What's happening in South Africa? Are they coping in Ghana? What's happening in Tanzania? We look at what is happening everywhere else and then come up with something better for ourselves. The only reason you have examples is so that you can eclatize, learn from it, build something better.
All right, okay, let's move away from education for a few minutes as we talk about the arrest of a former, the immediate past Director General of the Obidati Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Doyin Okupe. He was on his way to London. According to him, he was going for medical checkup. And at the airport, Murtala Mohammed Airport, Terminal 1, he was arrested by the DSS, the secret police. And they said he was on the watch list. And this was masterminded by the EFCC. Now they've released him, saying that it was erroneous, as it was because they forgot to take off his name from the watch list, or they didn't take off his name from the watch list following the his breach of the Money Laundering Act conviction, which he paid a fine in lieu of custodial sentence. I'd like you to speak, your take on this. What is the LP's position on this, being the fact that he's a chieftain of your party?
Well, I'll give you the LP's position. And then perhaps, because I think for the party is just yet more evidence of perhaps the inefficiency of the security system. Because if you had a man on your watch list and he's not particularly an unknown person, and then the time had come to remove him from your watch list, but you still kept him on your watch list, and then you had to go through the embarrassment of apologizing for wrongful arrest and all of that, it is suggestive of the capacities of our DSS. That the same DSS is too busy to chase after the real terrorists, but has time to be chasing after somebody he had no business with. It does not even bear commenting on, but I would hate to believe that it was a partisan thing. I would prefer to treat it as just another evidence of security collapse, perhaps, another example of the inefficiency of our security services, because what's the point? They just merely embarrass themselves and nobody else. But all is well that ends well. And he wasn't going for a checkup, I remember. It was for treatment. He was going to be treated for something or the other. But
yes, his lawyer had actually put up a statement that his health was being impacted and they should allow him passage to travel.
Okay, there are many things you have to react to. There's another story that's been brewing that a lot of people are talking about. This next international wind-up in the UK that they just saw. I mean, you have a right to react. It's politics season. Yeah, so react to it.
When Peter Obi said, go and verify, he did not say go and falsify. What they have done is despicable in the extreme. A man resigned from the company immediately he became governor. The wife was running the business. And then they voluntarily placed in a winding up notice. And at the maturation of the notice, it was effected. It wasn't them striking the company off the road. The company itself wound up its businesses in the UK. It was not even tangentially connected to either bankruptcy or insolvency or anything of the sort. But like I have said, when they can't tell you anything about themselves, they must invent mock about the person everybody is talking about. Peter Obi is good market, so they can continue. The only thing that is bad in politics is not to be talked about, that they can't find anything of substance but have to begin to invent, says everything.
Let's quickly talk alliances. We're hearing that most big political parties are making alliances with smaller parties. Who is the Labour Party talking to?
The Nigerian people. No, we're talking to the Nigerian people.
As regards other political, what's this alliance, the alliance with Kwankwaso Is there any inroad on that?
Like I said, we are talking to the Nigerian people. The Nigerian people are the ones who will vote in this election. Not big men, not alliances. Alliances help. And we have never foreclosed having alliances with anyone who is also looking to talk to the Nigerian people.
Are you still talking to NNPP?
I cannot speak to that because I am not party to any such discussion, but I can also not rule it out. I know we wouldn't be talking to the PDP, and we certainly wouldn't be speaking with the APC, but I would not be surprised if any such discussions might be ongoing, but in all honesty, I can't speak to it because I don't know.
Line open to speak.
I honestly cannot speak to that. You know me enough to know that if I know, I'll tell you I know. But you already know I'm a hot fellow amongst politicians. So when those kind of discussions might be going on, I doubt that anybody will remember to call Dele Faru to me to come and sit in those discussions. But I do know that we keep speaking to the Nigerian people, and Mr. Kwakwanso is an eminently qualified Nigerian. If the opportunity exists...
Is it Bola Tinubu an eminently qualified Nigerian?
Who is that?
Bola Tinubu.
Who is named that?
Bola Tinubu.
I really don't know who that is, but I do know there is a man who calls himself Bola Tinubu, and I doubt that I can find accommodation in the same space with such a man.
What about Atiku Abubakar?
Yuck. That's the past.
Are those eminently qualified Nigerians?
No, I don't believe they are.
Why?
Because their record in public office does not suggest that they should be trusted with public office again.
But Bola Tinubu claims he served Lagos and he did well. The father of modern Lagos. Atiku Abubakar was former vice president in this country.
You would have made an excellent attorney to fight, but the truth is this. No matter how many times Bola Tinubu might care to repeat that lie that he built Lagos, it doesn't make it the truth. The reality on the ground is that the man built a Lagos where there is no hospital fit for him to use. He has built a Lagos where I doubt there is anybody in this building who sends their children to a school that he has built. So what Lagos did he build? The same one where people are spending 3-4 hours to get to work in the morning, another 3-4 hours to get to work in the evening?
But they said they built a blue rail.
What blue rail? For 16 years? 16 years? To build how many kilometers of rail? At what cost? Look, the reality is that when a lie travels for as long as the Bola Tinubu lies and myths have traveled, eventually it must fall flat. And those lies have come to their end. You build the blue rail for 16 years. At what cost? How many years have they been building the Fourth Mainland Bridge? At what cost? Lekki Koi Bridge. At what cost? How many years did they toll it for? Lekki Ekpe Expressway, they've been building it for the last 16 years. They've not finished building it. In different sections of that road, it's already failing. We've been subjected to horrendous traffic on that. Look, we're already speaking to the people. He can say, if he built the moon, if it wasn't for him, there wouldn't be no Lagos. It would have been a creek.
Mr. Faratimi, just as we round off this conversation, I'd like you to speak from your party's perspective, assessing INEC's readiness for the elections. There have been some concerns around vote buying, around underage voting, around discrimination in issuing PVCs in some parts of the country. There have been some concerns. Yesterday we had Chima Christian talk about the integrity of BVAS and the electronic equipment used by INEC in this election. I'd like you to speak from your party's perspective. How confident are you in INEC as we approach the elections?
It's been a mixed bag. It's been a mixed bag because where we've had good reports related to PVC collections in some parts, we've also had rather poor reports and then discriminatory issuance of cards based on ethnicity in some parts. So it's not been particularly smooth sailing, but that's as relates to PVC. When it now comes to the election integrity itself, what I can say is this. The new electoral law, if followed, offers a way to credible election. But the BVAS and the entire system would be operated by Nigerians like me and you. If they elect to compromise that system, the system will be compromised. But it will be compromised and we would all suffer the consequences. The best that we can look for is that they will find a way to compromise it and find a way to pacify the people. But then we would all still bear the consequences together. So what we can say, and what I am saying personally is, INEC can be better than they have been. and there is vast room for improvement. Whether they will compromise the system or not is a matter of evidence. When the time comes, we will see it. But we have a system that is designed to checkmate vote buying, because if you are buying, there is a presumption that you are seeing the product. And the law says that there must be cathedral privacy within the voting booth, which means that is the confessional is between you and your God. Your choice is between you and God. It means that nobody, no party agent must be able to see your ballot. It also says that you should not take a recording device into that booth. So if the person paying for the vote decides to pay what we call Uwomogo on the street, that is up to him, provided the high neck does his own job and provided that the security agents perform as they are expected to perform. So the human elements are the ones that we need to worry about. The system as designed, if allowed to work, should provide credible results.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Dele Farotimi, spokesperson for the Obi Dati Presidential Campaign Council. It's been good having this conversation with you today. It's time now for a short break on the morning show. When we return, we'll have Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni join us to review top stories in today's newspapers. Stay with us.
Emergencies happen when you least expect them to. It gets worse when you are cash-strapped. No need to despair. First Advance has you covered. You can get that urgent cash right now on First Advance. With First Advance, salary earners can get up to 50% of their salary. No hassles. As long as you earn a monthly salary and your salary account has been active for at least 2 months. It doesn't matter if you run a salary account with First Bank or any other bank. Just dial *894*11# or simply dial *894# on your mobile phone. What's more, when you open a First Bank salary account, you can enjoy 0 charges and free debit card issuance. Download the First mobile app on Play Store or App Store today. Log in to experience First Bank digital banking. Select loans, select First Advance, and follow the prompts to receive your loan. Don't let that urgent need get the best of you. Get First Advance now. It's as simple as dialing *894*11#. First Advance. Fast, convenient, secure. You first. First Bank.
Lagos has amassed more wealth than any other state in the country to be the most comfortable city to live in.
Now Lagos is earning 51 billion naira every month.
But even with all that money, this is the Lagos you have now. Bad roads filled with potholes, poor drainage system resulting in floods during rainy season, incessant traffic congestions, increased environmental pollution, poor healthcare system, large-scale child begging, poor security and increased crime rate, impunity of state government officials, lack of clean drinking water, poor transportation system. After years of empty promises, Lagos is now rated as the second worst city to live in the world. How long shall we continue like this? Lagos is not working. We want our Lagos back. Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jandor as governor of Lagos State. Chafueko, fight for Lagos.
PDP, power to the people.
All right, welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. Joining us now for some headlines of today's newspaper from around the world is our Rise News analyst, Emmanuel Efeni. Great Malabite. Action.
Good morning, Rufai.
Good morning, sir.
Doing well. Good morning, Ayo. Yes, let's start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, again, Buhari warns foreign missions against interference in Nigeria's politics. Says nation working with ECOWAS to secure region, halt coups. Spain to collaborate with Nigeria in insecurity fight. Confers posthumous award on late envoy Seriki Silva seeks help to tackle insecurity in oil sector. Yes, once again, the president warning diplomats to stay clear of Nigerian politics in their utterances and actions. Well, it's a no-brainer, you will say, for diplomats to know where to draw the line. But we have seen in the past, but in those days, which Rufai, you mentioned, the days of Walter Carrington, they were unusual days.
Yes.
When we're battling to rescue the nation from the stranglehold of military juntas who did not want democracy to take off. Of course, remember Walter Carrington and some other envoys then, they took a stand. But even at that, you say Walter Carrington, not a career ambassador, was a political appointee, as it were. But clearly, the warning is timely. But again, when nations breach their own rules, the international community will come in. But we have everything in place to run a clear, free, fair, and credible election. And we hope the level playing field will be provided. President Buhari has reassured often and again that he will deliver a credible election before he leaves office and hand over to a successor. And that is what Nigerians expect. Now, the warning to the diplomats, timely, welcome, but we have our own job cut out as a nation to do things right, so that the international community will not have reason to come into Nigeria's affairs. Now, the Guardian newspaper, banks defy CBN, continue issuing old notes. New bank notes still scanty. Only 1 out of 9 banks in Boko issuing new notes. In Benue, new notes treated as souvenirs. Kanu customers tackle cashiers over mutilated notes. Long queues at ATMs paying new naira. Apex Bank kicks off sensitization program. Now, this issue of new notes is becoming a problem. Now, is it the banks that are refusing to dispense these new notes, or the banks don't have enough of the new notes? But you ask, those who sell the new notes at Owambe parties, where are they getting them from? Certainly, they don't go to CBN to get those notes. They come from commercial banks. So the warning from CBN, I don't know how that will resolve the issue, but we have a deadline. That is even the more worrisome issue. If on that day, we still have so many old notes all over the place, what is going to happen? But CBN has its job well cut out. Desensitization that it started a couple of days ago, I don't know how that will solve the problem if the notes are not coming out. If the ATMs are still dispensing old notes. So it's an issue the CBN has to tackle if this policy is not to flop or put Nigerians through unnecessary pain and torture in the name of currency redesign. Now, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, PVC collections, INEC bows to pressure, extend deadline. Yes, because the INEC was on the verge of disenfranchising people who already had their PVCs produced by the commission. So there has to be an efficient way to ensure that all those who have been so captured, their PVCs produced, and are willing, ready to collect their PVCs, do so. So it's up to INEC to make the process easy and speedy at the same time. Well, they've gone to the world level. I remember in 2014 when I collected my PVC, then it was done at the polling unit. You just go to the polling unit where you are to vote. They will have displayed the names there. You know your PVC is there, and you collect it. But we just hope with this extension of the deadline and smoothing of the process, many more Nigerians will collect their PVC ahead of the general election, which is just about 40 days away. Now, above the masthead of the Nigerian Tribune, Obasanjo denies writing UK on forthcoming election. Now, the Nation newspaper, millions of uncollected PVCs forced INEC to shift deadline. Now, above the masthead of the Nation newspaper, The Nation, troops killed 50 terrorists in 3 weeks, says Defense Headquarters. Yes, the war against terrorism is still on. And 50 terrorists killed by troops of the Nigerian army. Of course, kudos to the military for carrying on the fight, but the war is not over yet. Still, the terrorists still very much everywhere. In the northeast, which the president said he has delivered, they are still killing terrorists there. So, tells you that work to be done. Can everything be sorted out? As the president promised that he will improve insecurity substantially before he hands over to the next administration. So we just urge the military to continue doing a good work, but the job is not done yet. Not with widespread insecurity still across the country. Now, the Punch newspaper budget deficit rises 370%, hits 47 trillion under Buhari. President to pass on $15.62 billion Eurobond repayment to the next government. But I hope the presidential candidates are taking note, because we don't want to hear excuse. Oh, the magnitude of the problem left by the last administration. Every person, every candidate aspiring to be president should take note, and I hope they have their economic team in place working to hit the ground running. Because about the state of, the parlor state of the Nigerian economy today is not a secret. So nobody will say tomorrow when you become president that, oh, we never knew it was this, the rot was this deep. No. Daily Trust newspaper, Tinubu Atiku Kwankwanso Obi scramble for Kanu's 5.9 million votes. APC banking on Buhari, Ganduje, others. PDP relying on Shekarau. Work against me and regret it. Kwankwanso warns Ganduje. Why Kanu is the bride? Professor Fage. Of course, we know Kanu has huge votes, second only to Lagos. And the political gladiators in that state are evenly spread across the three major political parties, if you will. APC has Ganduje, the incumbent governor, although he almost lost his re-election, but for that Nasarawa local government magic, as it were, that led to a rerun. And of course, PDP has Shekarau, Brian Shekarau, former governor of that state, while Kwankwanso and his Kwankwansia movement firmly on ground. So Kanu playing the beautiful bride. Of course, the Kanu electorate will make their voice known on election day. Now, The Business Day newspaper, tension as Nigerians scramble for PVCs ahead of post-INEC extends collection deadline. The Vanguard newspaper, petrol scarcity lingers as private depots sell at 240 naira per litre. Shortage may continue till June. Ipman, queues increase in Abuja, Lagos. Others, 7 private depots reopen. Regulators not at filling stations as commuters pay high fares. This is what I don't get. We spend billions to subsidize. Now, you cannot get at the price, the regulated price. So what is happening? Also, we go back to, yes, the Vanguard newspaper. The story beside the photograph. Herdsmen destroy 30 hectares of cassava farm in Ondo. You know what that will do to food scarcity or the high cost of food. Ondo, when you talk of gari, a staple, a common staple in the country. From that axis, Ugbogwe, a place, yes, in Ondo State, it's like Ugbogwe is in Edo State. It's like the headquarters of gari all around that area. That is where they bring most of the gari people eat in Lagos, apart from the Ijebu gari. So,
which we are known for in Odogbolu.
Yes, in Odogbolu. Now, that's your homestead, Rufai. Now, if herdsmen are destroying 30 hectares of cassava farm, then there's a problem. Herdsmen are destroying, bandits are also destroying people's farm or preventing farmers from going to their farms in the north. So, you see why we're having problem with food inflation. Now, the foreign newspapers, quickly, the Times of London, millions more offered chance to take statins, yes, new guidelines after Witty warns of heart risk for middle age. Yes, there's a change. Statins will not be offered to anyone who wants them under the new NHS guideline. Yes, the change of approach comes after Sir Chris Whitty, the chief medical officer for England, warned that thousands of middle-aged people were dying of heart conditions because they did not get statins and similar medicines during the pandemic. So under the new, these new guidelines, those many more people, anyone with a 10% or higher chance of a heart attack or stroke will be given statins, which is a drug that lowers the cholesterol in individuals. So, good ones there. Now, the Wall Street Journal reporting inflation pace slows for the 6th straight month. That's in the U.S. U.S. inflation eased in December. And following a mid-2022 peak of almost 9.1% then. Now, December, 6.5% down from 7.1% in November. Two things seem to be looking up in the U.S., Rufai and Ayo.
So I think it's the front page of one of the papers, Vanguard, that says scarcity lingers as private depot sell for 240. So the question is, what is happening? Is this what we're paying subsidies for? I think there must be accountability in the system. And this has been on since the end of November last year. We've literally had a scarcity since the end of November last year. It lingered into Christmas. No official statement apart from the number, we have 1 billion more than enough liters of petrol. In fact, the DSS even tried to intervene. That was the first time I saw DSS trying to intervene in fuel logistics matter. I don't know, maybe DSS now have tanker trucks.
It's like they gave up.
But they gave up after 48 hours. They're saying 48 hours ultimatum. But after 48 hours, nothing changed.
The situation improved slightly following that, and then it went back to...
that means they failed. They failed.
Anyway, it's not their duty to distribute fuel.
So why did they even go to
NNPCL.
So NNPCL is supposed to distribute it. Then we have continued like that. There's still fuel scarcity as of today as we speak in Lagos. 240 in some areas is 300.
Yes.
So where are we going in the country? And nobody deems it fit as a national emergency to be able to talk about it.
And we're spending money
and
to
the
subsidize.
president is the Minister of Petroleum.
He has a Minister of State for Petroleum.
The president is the Minister of Petroleum. When it comes to petroleum scarcity matters, we should be able to ask who is the Minister of Petroleum. So what is the president saying about this?
Or doing
about this as the Minister of Petroleum?
Not just talking.
Because I'm talking to the Minister of Petroleum here. We can't build a country this way. And everybody, you see, Nigerians, we are so acclimatized to hardship that it becomes a way of life. Now, going to queue in filling station 5 a.m. in the morning has now become a way of life.
My problem, Rufai,
I know people don't complain about it.
Where is this subsidy going into if we are not seeing it at the filling station?
But here you go now. That's where the subsidy
on the flip side, we have to go. But on the flip side, can we just say that then it shows that Nigerians are ready for subsidy? As long
subsidy
as
removal.
Yeah, subsidy removal, sorry. As long as you can assure us that we'll get the product, we'll be willing to pay the amount of money. Maybe this is a test for us to see that indeed it is time for us to bite the bullet and remove subsidy.
But in Ikoyi, we're buying for 170.
All right, thank you
with
so
plenty
much.
queue.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel Feni. Time for a short break now. When we return, Aaron Akerijola will be here with Global Sports Updates. Stay with us.
Dis na Emeka. He like to dey keep money for her. As CBN deadline don dey near so. Dis one na wise Emeka. As he don hear say deadline dey near, he wan carry money go deposit for the right place with Access Bank.
It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky.
Even if the bank too far, na to go to the nearest Access Closer agent. No carry last with your money o.
Get up right now, right now.
Money wey you deposit for Access Bank, na money wey go make your mind rest well well. Don't let the money spoil for your hand o. 10 million naira today, fit be 0 naira tomorrow. Oya o, Musa, Shade, Onyinye, carry your money go Access Bank or Access Closer agent wey near you. Access, more than banking.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband buy.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Getting together for the first time in years was a little bit awkward. Grandpa still tried to entertain us. Mom was always stealing the spotlight from the kids. It wasn't until Grandma cracked a joke
That's my favorite prayer.
that we got back into our groove. In this festive, DSTV is making family time even better with an upgrade.
Stay connected to DSTV and we'll upgrade you to the next package for free.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For updates on sports stories across the globe, Aaron Akerijola joins us. Hello, Aaron. Good morning.
Yeah, very good morning to you, Aya. Good morning to you, Rufai.
Morning, Aaron.
Good morning to you, Rufai.
Yeah. I'm a Chelsea fan. We're losing. Yes.
Okay, let's. Okay.
I've accepted my fate. You know.
Yes. Of course.
Afraid
Okay, now, João Felix had his what they call it, his debut to forget. He had a debut to forget, but that's not even the big talking point. The big talking point is the fact that they are claiming that right now, that particular move, him getting a red card on the day against Fulham, will cost Chelsea £2.1 million. Because, first of all, of course, his loan move cost Chelsea £9 million and another £6 million on his wages. That totals about £15 million. And if you break it down, that's about £714,000 per week. And he's going to be out for 3 games. That's technically 3 weeks. and that's going to cost them a lot. But this man is asking for time, that change will happen. And when change happens, it takes time for things to evolve.
No.
But Prophet Ayodele, you know him very well, has been speaking and saying that Chelsea will need to wrong the rights by going to beg Abramovich, so that Abramovich will help them lift the curse.
That's not possible. That's not possible. That's not possible.
Okay.
They've sold the club,
No, but the point is, they said that they've wronged Chelsea, and bad karma is following Chelsea at the moment. Remember the Benfica curse?
Yeah.
So this is not the first time people have alluded to such.
There's nothing called bad karma. When they started at the start of the season, they were doing well. Tuchel was competing.
That's what I'm saying.
We're first
but
four.
Something happened.
But guess what happened?
What?
I don't know what happened to Todd Boehly. And Todd Boehly went to bring a Graham Potter that was a flash in the pan success in Brighton that was not tested, and he ruined everything. If Tuchel was still in that team, no, it can't be this bad. Let's not deceive ourselves, Aaron.
Okay, now let's look at of course, that particular win at the Craven Cottage was the first time Chelsea were losing to Fulham since 2006.
Yeah, that's quite painful.
Because very painful.
They are noisy neighbours.
Yes, and you look at the table right now, Fulham are actually up to 6th. And this is very, very instructive, understanding that we're going into a very, very crucial weekend that will see Arsenal, Manchester City, Manchester United, Spurs. So 1 to 5 will jostle for how the table will be rearranged, or probably how the gaps will be closer to each other. Now, speaking about the Manchester Derby, that will be happening tomorrow. A lot is expected between Manchester United and Manchester City. Manchester City are now the predominant team in the city of Manchester, though Manchester United have all the pedigree and have all the history. But this particular fixture, earlier in the season, it was a complete blowout as Manchester City ran Manchester United to the ground in that particular fixture. Manchester United have been in a rich vein of form after the World Cup. They've been winning games back to back, and they'll be hoping that this time around they can actually put a foot in the neck of Manchester City. Because if they do that, they will be doing Arsenal a huge favour. Now, speaking about Arsenal, the North London Derby also will be happening on Sunday. A lot is expected from that particular team, understanding that Tottenham will be taking and hosting that particular fixture at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Arsenal. Arsenal will be hoping that they can show tighter credentials by beating Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham Hotspur have been hit and miss this season, and they will be hoping to have a game of games against an informed Arsenal team, and let's see how that one plays out. That would actually go on to show if Tottenham Hotspur and even Arsenal, if they do have it in them, they have that stillness in them to be able to go that far. Before I open it up to you guys, just a few days ago, Bendel Insurance decided to do something quite remarkable and magnificent by unveiling a jersey for both Bendel Insurance and Edo Queens. Of course, the Edo Queens jersey was well designed, and they also unveiled sponsors. And this is quite instructive, understanding that Bendel Insurance dates back in time. These are one of the extreme traditional clubs over the years, and kudos must go to the Edo State government and the deputy governor who has been driving this effort to ensure that Bendel Insurance rises again. And I was speaking to him and said that this is not the first time a government has actually visited into a club. We saw that with Eyimba in 2003 and 2004, and they went on to win the CAF Champions League. And after Senator Oju Zokalu left, things just kind of teetered off. And he says no, that they're trying to bring a lot of sustainability and trying to ensure that they hand this club to the private sector so that when they leave and when their time is done, Bender Insurance doesn't suffer the same fate it had suffered, because it had produced quite a lot of stars. Cerezo Iguavon, Austin Cerezo Iguavon, the former coach of the Super Eagles, and quite a lot of people. But I must say kudos to them for putting up a very colorful event and ensuring that Bendel Insurance keep pushing the boundaries, because what the Edo State government have done and has gotten them quite a lot of recognition has been the fact that there's been a lot of pay parity between the men and the women. So the women are paid the same thing that the men are paid. And that is why they even decided to do the same unveiling for both the men and the women, which is quite remarkable.
I mean, Aaron, please, this tokenism by state governors in the name of sport and their deputies doesn't cut it for me. We've all seen this script play out very well. It's not today it's been playing out, this scripts. You talked about Eyimba.
Yeah.
And Ojus Okalu. I could even take you further with Kwankwaso and Kanu Pillars. They use it for the... I could even take you further with Kwara United.
All right.
All right. Kwara United even went all the way to get Wester off at some point.
At some point, yeah.
I could even take you further with Crown. All right? But the truth is, it is part of that adulation where they are there and there's no sustainable plan. And that's why you see the fabric of football has always crumbled. I could take you even way back further with teams like Jasper United that was even owned by a single person. Because I remember seeing some Jasper United games with Shooting Stars then in Ibadan. Truth has to be told. This is not the better model to run football. This is just tokenism.
No, but Rufai, these grievances are actually, personally, I actually asked the deputy governor.
Aaron, is sweet while it lasts. I bet you, once the deputy governor and the governor leaves administration, it is back to square zero. It is not today, all right, that this tokenism started. Just like how companies had tokenism then for football clubs. You remember NEPA back in the days?
Yeah.
You remember United Football Club?
But they are
why
saying
is it called Bendel Insurance? Because Bendel Insurance was an insurance company by the Bendel state government.
Now they are saying that they have decided to. They've seen all this play out over the years, and they have decided to take a different route. Because not only did they do an unveiling of a jersey, but they decided to actually bring together sponsors to ensure that they can actually bankroll this thing way beyond the state government's tenure, which elapses next year.
Show me a 20-year sustainability plan and I'll tell you that you're ready. We've seen all of this before. How many years are that tenure going to be over? 4 or 5 years. We'll come back, by God willing, we'll have this conversation. Show me a 10, 20 years sustainability plan.
Next year.
Next year?
Next year.
Okay. After next year, we'll come back and talk. Show me a 10, 20 year sustainability plan. I'll tell you are ready.
All right, but they actually argue otherwise.
At the rate of paying 350,000 naira per footballer, they will sustain this. We have seen this script being played, Aaron. Please don't fall for it. Let's talk about Bonanza weekend.
No, before we talk about Bonanza, Rufai, I hear you in terms of it being tokenistic, but also we've advocated for an improvement in the local league. So you talk about a sustainability plan for these players. What is your recommendation?
So this is my recommendation as a sustainability plan.
Yeah.
We need to start having programs in place where 2-3 companies co-own teams and they have a proper structure to be able to run it. And they have access to their television rights for marketing. Mm-hmm. I have always looked forward to what I call a Super 6 format. You can take 6 traditional teams. There's a management company that owns it, away from the LMC. They can bid their television rights and have a sustainability plan.
But television rights in Nigeria is literally nickels over dime.
Aaron.
When you know that. It's not worth so much.
Aaron, it is nickels over dime because you've not put good products on TV. Aaron, if you have a very good plan, will make football as exciting as Big Brother on television. And it is possible.
No, it is possible.
It's been done over the years. We have seen it. Aaron, I'm an out-and-out Shooting Stars fan. I saw most games in Adamo Sigba Stadium in Ibadan. It is possible. But we have not just gotten to that point yet of doing it.
But they are saying that they want to, that they've seen this play out and they want to crack that particular.
Show me a 10-year plan, Aaron.
But they are saying, and they are also hinging on the fact that the minister's 10-year program for sports and how he wants to privatize sports, so to speak, and actually shift the direction and the focus.
Ayo, please talk about Bonanza weekend. 2 debuts. You're an Arsenal fan, please.
All right, okay, so Arsenal faces Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously, London is going to be red on this weekend.
I'm not sure about that, but let's see how it goes.
Thank you so much. Let me just go back to Rufai saying that Graham Potter's run with Brighton was a flash in the pan. Brighton supporters beg to differ. They say he actually put in the work.
Yes, he did.
And that we could see the benefits of that work. What he said is that the leaders, just like you mentioned, Aaron, that he's having challenges with the leaders at Chelsea.
10 players are out injured as we speak.
So that is then he's also asking for a bit more time, that the fans are also quite impatient.
Yeah.
Just in the same way as Mikel Arteta came on and they were like, oh, fire him, he's not doing enough work. They're asking that, can you be a bit more patient and give him some time? Although Chelsea fans like Rufai are not quite.
No, the point was Chelsea literally won the lottery when Abramovich came in 2004.
Ayo, please tell those Brighton fans that Chelsea is not Brighton.
No, but the point is Chelsea won the lottery literally when they actually won, when Abramovich came in 2004. And they've been spoiled silly. Yeah. Chelsea now need to come to reality that this is how football clubs are run. That sometimes they can oscillate, sometimes they can vacillate.
Time will tell. Will we keep Graham Potter or will they listen to the fans and boot him out? Thank you, Aaron Akerojola, for your time. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we shall be talking to Joe Keshi, former Consular General at Nigerian Mission in Washington, D.C., United States of America. Stay with us.
New Naira notes? Don't panic. Here's what you need to know. Ensure to make deposits of all old banknotes before January 31, 2023. To make the process seamless for you, all Fidelity Bank branches will be open till 6 p.m. on weekdays and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays to allow for cash deposits only. Also, please note that bank charges on all cash deposits have been suspended by the CBN. However, charges shall still be applied on cash withdrawals. The new banknotes can be accessed at any Fidelity Bank branch nationwide from December 15, 2022. Old banknotes will remain in circulation till January 31, 2023, when they will cease to be legal tender, as directed by the CBN. For more inquiries, follow us on our social media channels or email us at true.serve@fidelitybank.ng. You can also call 0700 3035 489 or reach us on WhatsApp on 090 3000 5252. Thank you for banking with us.
We are Fidelity. We keep our word.
Yesterday I got a call from Globe. I won a 3-bedroom bungalow.
Yes, guys! Guess what? I won a car. I won a generator by participating in the Festival of Joy promo by Glow.
Hey, Glow don't do this one for me. Glow to make it set to me with sewing machine.
I won generator last year. This year I won for
It's a celebration like no other, with prizes like no other. 20 new houses to be won, 24 brand new cars, 200 sewing machines, 100 generators, 1,000 rechargeable fans. Glow Festival of Joy promo. Dial *611# now.
Papa, mama, brother, sister. This Lagos must work for all of us. Everybody down
Oh yes, Lagos people. Papa, mama, sister, brother, auntie, plus including uncle them. Better don't land for Lagos State gidigba. Money will be for Lagos State, then go use them for Lagos State. Wella, no more Baba Sope. Then no go chop Lagos State money. Nobody go pocket Lagos State. Then go take and build Lagos State, build road, build hospital, build houses. And now only one man fit do this job. His name na Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jandor. He can't carry one ogbonge person as the deputy governor. Her name na Funke Akindele Jennifer. My people, what do we wait for? Make we vote for light, vote for change. No be the kind change where they vote before. This one na the original change. How Amumu don do? Pay they pay.
Everybody down
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
As a player, there's nothing better than the roar of your crowd. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left, they could be extinct in the next few years, from loss of habitat and prey, and snares set for illegal bushmeat. So please, say no to illegal bushmeat. Let's keep the roar alive for Nigeria, because poaching steals from us all.
Imagine your wallet can be everything. Well, almost everything your bank is to you. That's exactly what First Money Wallet is. First Money Wallet from First Bank is another swift and seamless way to bank from your mobile phone. It doesn't matter if you have a First Bank account or not, nor the mobile network you use. Everyone can open a First Money Wallet, and it's very easy. Your phone number is your account number. With First Money Wallet, you can send money using just a phone number, receive money, pay bills, buy airtime and data for yourself or someone else, and check balance. You don't need a bank account at all or BVN to enjoy the boundless possibilities First Money Wallet offers. All you need is a registered phone number, and you can fund your wallet easily through your First Bank account or any bank account and debit card. What's more, First Money Wallet is highly secure with fingerprint technology and PIN. And when you need cash, just walk up to any First Money agent near you to withdraw money. No smartphone, no wahala. Just dial *894*1# on any phone. So, it doesn't matter if you live in the city or the remotest part of the country. With First Money Wallet, your transactions are easy, seamless, and secure. Download the First Money Wallet app now. Input your phone number and follow the prompts, or simply dial *894*1#. All money now on First Money. You first. First Bank.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. As Nigeria heads to the polls in less than 2 months, President Muhammadu Buhari has reiterated his call to foreign diplomats in the country not to meddle in the nation's local politics. The president gave the warning on Thursday while receiving letters of credence from ambassadors of Switzerland, Sweden, Republic of Ireland, the Kingdom of Thailand, the Republic of Senegal, and the Republic of South Sudan at the State House, Abuja. Buhari, according to a release issued by his media advisor, Femi Adesina, asked the new foreign diplomats to keep the activities and concerns within the limits of their calling and the reasons for being sent to Nigeria. The president also told the envoys that Nigeria is working closely with ECOWAS to deal with insecurity in the West African region, as well as implementing strategies to contain the spate of unconstitutional changes in government within the region. Joining us on the show this morning to discuss Buhari's warning to foreign diplomats and presidential candidates taking their campaigns abroad is Joe Keshi, former Consular General at Nigerian Mission in Washington, D.C., United States of America. Good morning, Mr. Joe Keshi, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year to both of you, Rufai and Ayo. And by the way, I was Consul General in Atlanta, not in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Our apologies.
Okay, I mean, you've stated that. Thank you so much. So, President Buhari says foreign nations should not interfere. And we have a long level of interference. I think this morning when we were talking about it, I remember somebody that was known to have majorly interfered in Francophone African affairs, Jacques Faucard, that pretty much held the string of what shaped Francophone Africa. But obviously we will not have moments like the Faucard moments any longer. But, you know, what should we be doing to be able to ward these nations out? Because there is no how we can totally free ourselves of interference of some sort. What should we be doing within our own ranks here?
Look, I think the only way we can reduce, we can't get it off completely, but the only way I believe we can reduce foreign interference in our affairs is to just grow up as a nation, is to just build ourselves up, is to become a strong nation, you know, in our own rights, you know, and do things right. You can actually add with international, you know, best practices. And when we begin to do things like this, not only will we be respected, not only will we be accepted as a credible member of the international community, but foreign nations will probably limit their level of interference, you know, as we see today. But when you come to think of it, you know, again, we encourage that interference in so many ways. And look, on your station, for example, and I think other stations, there's an advert running on the election, and I think it's being promoted, among others, by the Commonwealth and something office and so on, and a number of other things. So you cannot tell somebody who is assisting you, who is helping you left and right, you know, not to interfere. I mean, it's not really not credible when you make such statements. But the president the president is right to warn them, but it's because of who we are as a nation. You know, when you look at how, for example, diplomats are treated in Nigeria and how African diplomats or other diplomats are treated in the advanced countries, it's a vast difference. And that's because they have established themselves. They know what they are doing. Nobody's going to go and give them lectures, as we often hear from our foreign partners. So we just have to grow up as a nation. I keep using that word, grow up, become mature 60 years after. Again, I'll add that if one of my professors is listening, he's going to come back to me and say, Joe, you keep saying 60 years after. Yes, 60 years after, we refuse to become a serious adult. That's my view.
Talking about we getting our acts together here in our nation to protect our sovereignty, especially with regards to elections, I'd like you to speak to the fact that our political candidates caught international attention, international perhaps endorsement. Currently, the presidential candidate of the PDP, Waziri Atiku Abubakar, said on invitation of the British government has gone there. We've had Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu speak at Chatham House. We've had Mr. Peter Obi meeting with some top British government officials and other frontliners such as that. If we're asking for the Foreign Mission Office not to meddle, foreign nations not to meddle with our political processes, how about the fact that we also go to them as a way for them to endorse us as candidates for the next for elections? And also speaking to that, just to talk about the importance or the power of foreign influence as opposed to foreign interference.
You're talking of two different things. The first one is that we live in a global environment, and despite our internal contradictions, Nigeria is a nation that people look forward to and keep hoping that we could actually accomplish our manifest destiny to lead the continent of Africa. And as a result, in elections like this, you should expect that foreign leaders or foreign nations want to get acquainted with those who want to rule the country in due course. And by the way, it's not only Nigerian leaders that go through this process. All over the world, politicians sometimes, go around the world in order to establish themselves. And for example, in the United States, I can't remember exactly who, but I know that there have been one or two presidents. His team considered that his knowledge of foreign policy was very limited. And what they did was to organize a tour for him to go around certain countries and in the hope that he will sharpen, he will become more acquainted with the global development. And I think this is what's going on also, when our leaders are invited to speak in places like Chatham House and to meet, foreign governments, the foreign governments themselves are preparing themselves to know who and who, they are establishing a fraternity relationship with the possible leaders of tomorrow's, Nigeria. They want to know where they stand on any of these issues to enable them also formulate their policies post the Buhari administration. So this is normal. This is normal. It's nothing. And I will encourage political leaders, if they're invited, look, it's only honorable that they honor the invitation to speak or to have meetings. It's all part of the process of knowing who could be Nigeria's leader going forward and exactly what they stand for. That will enable these nations that are inviting them to also begin to formulate, their post-Buhari Nigeria relationship and the rest of it. So that's normal. To the second question, I think to talk of in terms of foreign interference and what was the other one you said?
Foreign interference and foreign influence.
Yes, foreign interference. Look, the line is very thin. But you see, foreign interference is as a result of the fact that you probably open up yourself or you invite that interference. For example, you could go back to the president is saying that there should be no foreign interference in our election. But let's go back to 2015. You remember how many times John Kerry, the then Secretary of State of the United States, was in this country, was in Nigeria. He met all the leaders, current leaders of the APC, 4 times, if I remember. They were having meetings with him and so on. As we speak, I believe that all the presidential candidates, particularly the four top runners, have been invited and they've honored invitations from ambassadors resident in Nigeria. Again, this is part of the diplomatic process because the ambassadors want to know them. The ambassadors want to report back to their countries to know exactly what is happening. And in a situation where, let me repeat myself, in a situation where they're also helping you, some of your institutions for the elections, if that is not financial interference or whatever we can call it, I don't know. But as long as we are part of the global system, we will continue to have this foreign interference or foreign assistance or foreign influence, as you call it. But it is something that we clearly can't avoid. But the most important thing, as I said earlier, is that if we become what we should be as a nation, a strong, powerful, progressive, economically strong nation, it will be very difficult for any country just to come in and lecture us or tell us what to do. On the contrary, like what happened, earlier, the first years of independence and much later under the military, they'll be coming to Nigeria for consultation, before some critical African issues are decided.
Okay, another way at which you can have a lot of foreign interference and foreign election scooping is in the process of election management itself, where foreign consultants are employed, where they have access to some of your on-the-ground data that you might not want to give them the chance to. And through this, foreign influence, they can also tilt a lot of things in your favor. And we had that. Certain political party in 2015 did use a lot of that, Can we speak true to that? Because it was a foreign firm set up that was brought in, and they had a lot of access to some sensitive data that they did use.
Well, again, you see, this is why when we write speeches for the president, we should be very careful, the kind of things we put on the table so that these recollections are not made to embarrass the person of the president. Again, you were right. I mean, you are right, Rufai. And this speaks to what I said earlier, that foreign interference and the rest of it, in our case, as it is today, is almost unavoidable. And that is the honest truth. It's unavoidable because not only do Nigerians themselves want to cut the foreign envoys, the foreign envoys themselves want to cut Nigerians. And when you talk of the data you refer to, these guys abroad want to make business, and they found a partner in Nigeria who wants to use their expertise. And that's all what it amounts to, pure and simple. But returning back to, my favorite theme, all this will continue until we get our acts right, we resolve our, internal contradictions and problems and become a strong member of the international community.
All right, very important in terms of being a strong member of the international community. Some would argue, especially Professor Joe Garba in his book, former UN president, that the nation of Nigeria isn't what it used to be in terms of being a big brother in Africa or a nation to reckon with, or that our influence on the African continent has, over the years, diminished. I'd like to get your take on that. Side by side, also to speak to what the president talked about with regards to ECOWAS working together to tackle insecurity in this particular region, how far that has gone and what more can be done to progress that actual work.
Well, if you are referring to Joe Garba's book, which was written, I think, in the 80s or thereabout, things have, relatively gone worse than that. But the truth still remains this. Despite what we are going through in Nigeria, Nigeria commands a lot of respect and attention. Particularly African countries, they still believe that they need Nigeria and that Nigeria is in a position to help them. The only thing that they want to actually see is a strong, united, progressive Nigeria that will be in a position to even do more than the country is doing for them today. And that's the honest truth. So if we have a progressive country, if we have a purposeful leadership, a committed leadership that begins to turn things around, come next, going forward from February this year, you would also see a change in the attitude of particularly, African leaders. And by the way, as we speak, despite the challenges we have, let's put it on record that we are still assisting a couple of African countries. That's the honest truth we must admit to ourselves. And I have defended the right of Nigeria to do this, except that it is how we do it that now becomes, point of discussion. The other aspect, it's the other thing you
on
said
ECOWAS,
about
on working
on
with
ECOWAS.
and security.
Yes, we have no choice. As long as ECOWAS is strengthened, the sub-region, West African sub-region is strengthened, our own security is not guaranteed. So we must continue to pay close and real attention to developments on the West Coast. Because if we can stabilize the West Coast, it is also to Nigerians' benefit at the end of the day. I've always made this point, and I think Foreign Affairs has made these points many years consistently. If we can stabilize the West Coast, and as we grow in bounds to become an industrialized nation, the first market for us is the ECOWAS market. That's the honest truth. So we have the responsibility to ensure that ECOWAS itself is stable and progressive. And once that is done, I guess a chunk of our, problem is resolved. But it's in our own best interest to continue to keep our eyes on what's going on the West Coast and continue to assist as much as we can in collaboration with other, West African nations.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Joe Keshi, former Consular General, Nigerian Mission in Atlanta, the United States of America. It's time now for a short break. When we return, Doyin Okupe will be here with details on what's trending. Stay with us.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business, we vote. Vote is the answer. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Yeah. Vote is the answer. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business with Vote. By Polaris Bank.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Vault is the answer.
Esther, you're late again. Esther?
She's a wandering light in the darkness. She's beautiful. Oh, she's a superstar.
Morning, Esther.
She never let her mama down. She's beautiful. She know the fear. She know they ever got a hand for her.
No phones at the table, please. Esther? I love you too.
Got everything? Don't forget I'll pick you at 4.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Getting together for the first time in years was a little bit awkward. Grandpa still tried to entertain us. Mom was always stealing the spotlight from the kids. It wasn't until Grandma cracked a joke
That's my favorite prayer.
that we got back into our groove. In this festive, DSTV is making family time even better with an upgrade.
Stay connected to DSTV and we'll upgrade you to the next package for free.
My brother, my sister, una dey there? Listen, make I clear una well. To win election, no be only say your vote na im plenty pass o. Before person fit win election for we country, the person must win 25% of vote for 2/3 of state, plus the FCT for Nigeria. That one na for president. And governor must win the same thing for all local government area for the state. Na so our constitution put am o, and na so all our presido take become presido. All our governors na the same way them take win. So therefore, my people, our country big no be small o, and we get different language, different religion, ethnic group nko. That one self dey nyafu. Now why nobody fit think say if you don't get north vote, abi south vote, abi east or west vote, you don't do. Na lie yo, except you collect vote from all over the country, you just dey bobo yourself. Make una tell everybody, make everybody for know now. Make you no for cause fight tomorrow. Na Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, bring on this message.
Welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. Joining us now is Doyin Okupe with stories trending around the world.
100%.
Hello, Jinx.
Today it's 100%. He did it.
I hear that he's improving on a daily basis. We're going from here to here to here. 100.
I know it's because it's Friday, isn't it? Is that not why?
Yes, it is.
We are missing Dr. Abati
We
so much.
are,
I don't
absolutely.
know.
So much.
Well, the next time we have a Friday without Dr. Abati, it's going to be a big problem. So we have to let him know that he cannot miss any more Fridays. Oh, well, all right. I guess we can begin what's trending. Should we try? Okay, let's go on a break. We'll be right back.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband buy.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Getting together for the first time in years was a little bit awkward. Grandpa still tried to entertain us. Mom was always still in the spotlight from the kids. It wasn't until Grandma cracked a joke
That's my favorite prayer.
that we got back into our groove. In this festive, DSTV is making family time even better with an upgrade.
Stay connected to DSTV and we'll upgrade you to the next package for free.
This na Emeka. He like to dey keep money for her. As CBN deadline don dey near so. This one na wise Emeka. As he don hear say deadline dey near, he wan carry money go deposit for the right place with Access Bank.
It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky.
Even if the bank too far, na to go to the nearest Access Closer agent. No carry last with your money o.
Get up right now, right now.
Money wey you deposit for Access Bank, na money wey go make your mind rest well well. Don't let the money spoil for your hand o. 10 million naira today, fit be 0 naira tomorrow. Oya o, Musa, Shade, Onyinye, carry your money go Access Bank or Access Closer agent wey near you. Access, more than banking.
Welcome back to the morning show. I guess we can begin. What's trending right now? Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe.
In the United States, Attorney General Merrick Garland on Thursday appointed a special counsel. One-time U.S. Attorney Robert Hur to investigate the presence of classified documents found at President Joe Biden's home in Wilmington, Delaware, and at an unsecured office in Washington, D.C., dating from his time as vice president. Her was previously appointed by former President Donald Trump, who is facing a criminal investigation for allegedly mishandling classified files. Then, singer and songwriter Lisa Marie Presley, the only child of rock and roll legend Elvis Presley, died on Thursday after being hospitalized for a medical emergency. Presley was dedicated to her father's legacy and shared his brooding charisma. She followed him professionally, releasing her own rock albums in the 2000s. She made headlines as she struggled with drug addiction and had 4 public marriages, including with music legend Michael Jackson and actor Nicolas Cage. She was 54 years old. In Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday reiterated his call to foreign diplomats in the country not to meddle in the nation's local politics and to keep their activities and concerns within the limits of their calling and the reason for being sent to Nigeria. The president gave the warning while receiving letters of credence from ambassadors of Switzerland, Sweden, Republic of Ireland, the Kingdom of Thailand, the Republic of Senegal, and the Republic of South Sudan at the State House in Abuja. Under sports, Argentina's World Cup winning captain Lionel Messi and his heir apparent France forward Kylian Mbappe have been nominated alongside 14 players for the Best FIFA Men's Player Award. Real Madrid's Karim Benzema, who won the 2022 Ballon d'Or award, is also on the short list. However, Al Nassr's new signing, Cristiano Ronaldo, was left out of the list of nominees for the first time since the awards began. The Portuguese striker won the FIFA award in 2016 and in 2017 and was among the 3 finalists the following 3 years. FIFA will announce the 3 finalists in each category of the awards in early February.
My name is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie and I am a writer.
Finally, under entertainment, award-winning novelist Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie has been featured in the first chapter of the Lady Dior handbag campaign by creative director Maria Grazia Chiuri, the first female director of the iconic French luxury fashion house. Chimamanda in the campaign was spotted wearing a t-shirt emblazoned with "We should all be feminists," coined from her famous 2014 book-length essay about femininity and feminism, which she says have often been seen as mutually exclusive.
We humans are so fragile, and it's important to give people their flowers while they're here. So never admire quietly.
Well, let's begin what's trending. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, on Thursday held a town hall with students of his alma mater at the University of Nigeria Nsukka Business School in Enugu ahead of his presidential campaign in the state. The former Anambra State governor, during the meeting, advised Nigerians not to hand the country over to a sick person. He also criticized candidates that have been absent from presidential debates, adding that character and competence should be used to evaluate whoever will be voted in as president. Well, after the town hall at the university, security men had a tough time getting the presidential candidate to his helicopter that was waiting to take him to his rally at the Michael Okpara Square as a crowd of supporters said goodbye. Let's take a look. Peter Obi, while addressing a mammoth crowd at the Michael Okpara Square, said that he is determined to lead a nation that its citizens, home and abroad, will be proud of. The former Anambra State governor also promised to destroy the structure of criminality, which he says has plunged Nigerians into poverty.
That was God. They told you you have no structure. They told you you have no structure. electricity, structure of poverty. That is the structure we want to throw away and bring structure of prosperity, structure of no more strike for students, structure of people living a life, having a job. That's the structure we want to bring in. This year's election will not be by religion. No religion buys bread cheaper. And it will be by my turn. It is your turn. It's turn of you to take back your country. I'm not contesting because I'm an Igbo man. I'm a proud Igbo man. But I'm contesting because I'm the best candidate.
While activist and Labour Party campaigner Aisha Yusufu, who was at the rally in Enugu State, encouraged supporters to use their PVCs to vote out incompetent leaders.
We will use our PVCs. We will go to the polling units and we will vote them out. They must understand that power belongs to the people and we are the people.
Well, Peter Obi had a successful turnout in Enugu State. That last visual where he was jumping up the stairs, I thought it was cute because he always has to do that to show people that he's fit, refined.
All right. So a couple of things. One thing is certain. Everything is on the ballot this year. But the most important thing on the ballot is the competence and the soul of Nigeria. The competence of the candidate that will emerge president.
Yes.
And the soul of Nigeria. It has never been this bad. The last 8 years has been a tumultuous time for Nigeria. All indices are down. I sound like a broken record player if I want to talk about it over and over again. And that's why it is so sad, like the candidate commented on, that people didn't still deem it fit to attend debates. Mm-hmm. And like I said, anybody that didn't debate in this election cycle disrespected Nigerian people. What is a debate? A platform for you to espouse your ideas. If you want to lead a country, you must be able to debate your ideas. And that's why, please, going forward, I know it's not legal yet, but we must be able to put legal sanctions on people that don't debate. And the people, most importantly, should be those that will stand tall. And please, let's forget this argument of, most people are illiterate. It is the elite people that watch debate. No. If we would translate those debates in local languages for people, let us do it. Because they have a right to hear what their candidate wants to do for them. No matter who you are in this country, even if you can't speak English, you understand your local dialect or your local language. So please, debates are mandatory. And he also said, we can't afford people that have medical conditions not to tell us their medical conditions. Let's not forget, we had a president that died in office. And that leading up to the campaign collapsed at a point. So we saw it coming. And that's why it's unforgivable. We can also have a country where the president spent close to 200 days in a year out of the country. Do you know how much the country spent alone by parking the presidential jet abroad? We can't afford all of that because now we are broke. We don't have the money. So character is on the ballot, competence is on the ballot.
Yeah.
As regards what is it called, the helicopter and all of that, yeah, that's politics season. That is, people are crazy about him, just like people are crazy about other candidates.
Yes.
And as regards the things he said, hope he knows that a lot of Nigerians are writing promises down. I have a jotter now where I jot all the promises down for the presidential candidates. And we will ask them if they don't do it. Like Bola Ahmed Tinubu said, he will bring back the coal industry in Enugu. We will hold him accountable by that. Peter Obi says he will revamp education. We'll hold him accountable. Atiku said 10 billion for small businesses. The first thing we'll ask him is 10 billion for small. Kwankaso said 500,000 new entrants that, we'll only write JAM once every 4 years. We'll ask all of them, and they must all be accountable.
Well done. I thought it was quite instructive, his town hall at Nsukka as well, where he talked about the debates, as Rufai has highlighted as well. He talked about the fact that in the United States alone, the presidential candidates always hold debates. And it's so important so we can hear their ideas.
I'm glad he was presenting an intellectual conversation before an intellectual audience. And just what Rufai said, that before we get to legal sanctions, I believe that before we get to legal sanctions, we should have human and moral sanctions. So we don't have to have everything spelled out, especially when it comes to debates, because if the people understand the power that they wield, and you know that if this were a private organization, you are the employer. And so if the person who is coming for an interview refuses, or who's supposed to come for an interview with you to tell you just why they're the best fit for the role, refuses to attend that interview, then you won't even give the person an audience, let alone hire that person. So at the end of the day, the best sanction should be the response of the people. To what extent do we want to hold our candidates to account? It's not just the media who's calling for the debates. It should be, the media is the voice. We're acting as the voice of the people. The people should challenge the person who's coming to them to seek their votes. And then with respect to the PVCs, which Aisha Yesufu spoke about at the end, I thought that was really important. INEC has extended the date of collection of PVCs by 1 week to the 29th of January, and also by 1 week at your ward level. Please don't complain. Get your PVCs. You are the most powerful arm of government. Ensure you wield your power.
All right, then. We'll take another story. The governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, on Thursday commissioned the state's first state-of-the-art floating market, which he says will create more economic opportunities for the riverine communities in the state. The 6,000 square meter market is equipped with over 170 stores, a banking complex, and other auxiliary facilities. Let's take a look before we come back for a discussion.
And we are particularly proud of our governors who have tried to hold the flag flying. In this particular state of which we are very proud, this is the third governor of PDP extraction. And none of them has disappointed us. I'm happy that there is continuity in government.
I thought this was such a brilliant idea. Congratulations to the governor. This is my state. I was saying the fact that, we are always, we always have the flooding in Delta State. I thought it was ingenious that they thought about creating a floating market, employing jobs for a lot of people.
This is laudable. Congrats to Governor Okowa. This is very good. But apart from infrastructural development, please, human development too. People that ought to be paid, pensioners that ought to be sorted out. So let's sort them out so that everything can move in tandem for the state. But good one for Governor Okowa. This is a good one.
Absolutely. We'll take another story. As Nigerians express apprehension regarding the availability of the newly redesigned Naira notes and the complexity of the banking system in the country, new videos have emerged showing victims of alleged bank scams in separate instances. 2 women claimed that their money in large sums disappeared from their bank accounts. One of the victims went hysterical at a banking hall after 600,000 naira was allegedly deducted from her account. The other victim, Chiamaka Ajim, in a now viral video claimed that she had 4 million naira in her account, which mysteriously vanished. Let's take a look.
I bank with Zenith Bank, and yesterday night at about 8:43 p.m. I got debit alerts. The first one to to an Access Bank, it was 3.7 million transferred from my account to the Access account. And then I was confused because I don't understand, like, I didn't do this transaction. I did not authorize it or anything. And then I got a second one immediately, like just a minute later. Because I was trying to actually go into my mobile app, and then I got another debit alert of 222,900 to the same Access account, to the same Access bank. And then a minute, it wasn't even up to a minute, I got another debit alert, 102,000 naira to a UBA account. I want my money back. Oh, now they're telling me it's only 850,000 naira. They were able to salvage from Access Bank. And it's Access that has the 3.9 million. UBA just has 102,000 naira. They're telling me it's only 850,000. They were able to salvage from Access. That's what they are going to refund to me. That you can't get a court order for them to refund it. That any other money, they are not liable for my loss. For over 4 million naira. So you should keep tagging these people, because I know if it's a celebrity that lost this money, they will attend to the celebrity, because they've seen an ordinary Nigerian. We don't care who go fight for them. They tell me it's 850,000, they will give me back. I don't 4 million naira. I just lost my job December. This is money I'm trying to use to start a business. My rent is there. This is my life savings. Everything I've worked for since 2021 August. I moved to Lagos on my own. Please, I need my money back.
Oh, this is so sad, Ayo. I cannot imagine what this young lady is going through. I mean, she wants to start a business. She has no money in her account. What do you think is really happening here? The other lady, she was hysterical at the bank. She's like, I've never, had an armed robber in my house. I put my money in the bank. Now, this is the armed robber that I've come to meet her.
This, and so sad, like you mentioned, her video was quite emotive. Watching it, a young lady who wants to make the best of her life, deposits money in her account. And these are some of the issues, Oji, that we talked about with regards to digital banking. These are some of the risks associated with digital banking, which we had talked about the CBN and individual banks highlighting and securing the monies of Nigerians, Nigerians. Earlier on, we'd spoken about the Royal Mail being attacked, cyber attacked, and these things happen. That's the truth. The only thing is that how is it managed? This young lady is able to trace the accounts that it was transferred to. So maybe someone got her details, or she was robbed, and then they got her details on her phone, and then they were able to transfer money from her bank account to another. The onus is on the banks to investigate this and be able to freeze the account, and then be able to trace the owner. At least we have BVN, don't we? That's the whole reason why we went through the BVN, process. Trace the owner, the destination account, and find out who and prosecute whoever is behind it. We cannot have Nigerians who are looking for their money because someone has stolen it. It doesn't inspire confidence in a cashless society.
Yes, absolutely. I thought it was important to highlight this lady or this woman so that the bank will take note. We shall take our final story. Cross River State last month celebrated its yearly festival, which attracted Nigerians from all walks of life. The governor, who is known for his bombastic rhetoric, shared how he felt about celebrating the carnival for the last time in this video that has now gone viral. Let's take a look.
I hold a first degree, I hold a master's, I hold a PhD, I hold an MBA, I hold an LLB, I hold an ML, so I can't be at the same level. So you should expect that I will say so much with one single word, and that's polylistic English. That is luxury grammar. That's understanding the syntax and application of English. And of course, you give it to me as a professor. I'm really proud that they gave me opportunity to serve them as governor for 8 years. As I eclipse out of the office, I do know that this state will miss me. Not just because I'm governor, because I come with style, I come with panache, I come with capacity, I come with intellect, I come with innovation. That's it. So
I come with everything. I'm going to miss this man.
He's a professor.
He eclipsed out of office.
He's a professor. He comes with a lot of pizzazz. But what are the facts on ground?
Go ahead,
professor.
Rufai. Tell us.
Where is Kali Air today? Where is unemployment rate in the States? What did he do for his people? All-time low on projects. All right, should we go further? This was the same man that employed thousands of aides in the name of creating employment. Where's Kala's chicken today? How much is the money?
Kala's chicken.
Where's Kala's Vegas today?
No, Kala's Vegas.
Kala's Vegas.
Yes, it was Kala's
what has
Vegas.
he done for his state with so much resource? Do you know today, Calabar is one of the dirtiest places in the country.
So sad.
And Calabar used to be known to be one of the cleanest
Rufai
places
is
in
not
Nigeria.
cutting this man any slack. Well, thank you all for your great analysis, as always, on What's Trending. Well, that's all I have for you on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow. Well, next week.
All right, that's all on this edition of The Morning Show. Boss number 5 will be here to take you through global business reports. Stay with us and have a wonderful weekend.
Well, hello and welcome to Global Business Report. I'm Onyi Sunday, coming to you from Nigeria's capital, Abuja, sitting in for Rotu Sodiri today. Well, let's look at the stories currently making headlines across the business world today. Argentina's inflation hits 95% in 2022, setting a 3-decade record. T-Mobile, the second largest U.S. mobile service provider, in talks to buy Mint Mobile, the budget wireless provider. And US dollar drops amid Fed seen decelerating rate hikes. Well, also, Starlink is now in Nigeria, but only for those earning in dollars. Well, thank you so much for staying with us. Official data shows China's exports in December fell at their fastest pace since 2020. Well, that's owing to a drop in global demand and after health restrictions hit economic activity in the country. The world's second largest economy is still reeling from the effects of years of its zero COVID policy, which hammered businesses and supply chains and also dampened consumption. Well, exports fell 9.9% year on year to $30.6 billion. Now, China's customs says it's their second consecutive month of decline and the biggest fall since the early days of the pandemic in 2020. While staying with that country, its media reports that the country is attempting to acquire minority holdings with special rights in the local subsidiaries of Tencent Holdings Limited and Alibaba Group Holding Limited. Now, Beijing started purchasing these golden shares, which typically represent 1% of a company in private internet media companies, more than 5 years ago, in an effort to gain influence. Well, government-backed funds or businesses purchase these golden stakes in exchange for board seats and or the ability to veto important corporate decisions. While staying with China, again, its media says the world's second largest economy, of course, China, is planning to issue further policies to support the housing rental market, well, including a $15 billion housing rental loan plan. While China plans to improve developers' balance sheets, it mainly targets high-quality property firms with relatively big size and systemic importance. And away from China, Argentina registered inflation of 94.8% in 2022, its highest annual figure since 1991. Latin America's third largest economy has one of the highest inflation rates in the world, but December's monthly figure of 5.1% continued a general downward trend since a peak of 7.4% in July. Now, the annual figure, nonetheless, was a huge jump on the 50.9% inflation from 2021. The government has set a 2023 inflation target of 60%. And Italy may cut excise duties to curb rising fuel prices in the face of mounting public anger that could pose the first major challenge for nationalist Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Now, Meloni swept to power in a resounding election victory in September, which was followed by rising poll numbers. Addressing Parliament, Economy Minister Giancarlo Giorgetti said the government would monitor price levels in order to verify whether the current trend was determined by external shocks or speculative behavior. Well, T-Mobile, the second largest U.S. mobile service provider, is thinking of buying Mint Mobile, the budget wireless provider. Now, no final decision has been made, and closely held Mint Mobile could opt to remain independent or sell to another party. Well, that's according to the company's website, where Mint Mobile actually offers budget cell phone plans on the T-Mobile network starting at about $15 per month. Well, staying with the U.S., all three main indexes on Wall Street extended gains after the much-anticipated Consumer Price Index came in at its lowest level since October 2021. And this comes as months of Fed interest rate hikes begin to kick in. Now, the report also showed the first month-on-month dip in the CPI for about 2 years. The news boosted bets on the central bank lifting rates just 25 basis points next month, easing worries about a possible recession in the world's top economy. Well, however, long-term Treasury yields fell and the dollar dropped as comments from senior U.S. Federal Reserve officials came in. Away from the U.S., Britain's economy unexpectedly grew in November. Well, that's according to today's official data. It is showing that it's widely tipped to enter recession this year as the country faces a cost of living crisis. Now, according to the Office for National Statistics, gross domestic product added just 0.1% in the month, aided by the services sector and despite widespread strikes. Now, that followed expansion of 0.5% in October. However, GDP shrank 0.3% in the 3 months to November compared with the 3 months to August. Also just in, the industrial sector slowed down in November as the latest UK industrial and manufacturing production data published by the Office of the National Statistics showed that manufacturing output arrived at a contraction of 0.5% month-on-month in November, worse than the 0.2% expected by analysts, and a positive growth of about 0.7% registered in October. Now, total industrial output also came in at minus 0.2% month-on-month versus minus 0.3% expected and minus 0.1% last month. And for more on this story, let's cross to London, where we are joined by Arise business analyst Bode Ososomi now for more. Thank you so much, Bode, for joining us on the show. Now, Bode, we just got some UK economic data this morning. Is recession inevitable?
Well, at least it's still hovering over the like a cloud. But what you're learning, Onye, and good morning, and thanks for having me on the show. What you're learning is that the services sector is doing much better than the manufacturing sector. Year on year, the UK manufacturing production figures that just came in showed a minus 5.9% growth in November, missing expectations, while total industrial output, which also just came in this morning, plunged by 5.1% in the 11-month again worse than expected. The weakness in manufacturing was partially offset by positive contribution from mining and quarrying. But despite the weak manufacturing figures, the gross domestic product, the monthly figure, unexpectedly managed to grow by 0.1% in November after expanding 0.5% in October 2022. But to your question, we have to understand, one, what makes the growth, what are the sectors and how they're performing. My understanding is that if you look at the details, services, hospitality to shopping was the biggest driver, up by 0.2% in November. Also, output in consumer-facing services grew by 0.4% in 2022, following growth of 1.5% in October 2022. The largest contribution came from food and beverage services in a month boosted by the FIFA World Cup activities. Construction also was flat. But I think the broad reaction that many are giving or responding to this is that, yes, we are close to recession, but it's not quite obvious. According to the ONS, December's monthly GDP, that's the next figure, needs to drop by as much as 0.5% for us to get Q4 to be negative. And if Q4 is negative, obviously Q3 was minus 0.2%, then that would be a recession. The Finance Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, reacting to the data, said the focus must be on achieving the plan to halve inflation this year so the economy can get back on a path of healthier growth.
But I think you actually just answered my next question, but I'm still going to have to put that through. I mean, taking a look at these figures, reactions are clearly coming in. What's the latest in terms of comments and, of course, reactions to yesterday's US November inflation print?
Well, the inflation print was somewhat expected. Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia President Patrick Harker, he said that the worst of inflation is likely past now, also adding that the time of supersized rate hikes are over. So we are going to be seeing more like 25 basis points. St. Louis Federal Reserve leader James Bullard also noted that the most likely scenario is inflation remaining above 2%, so that the policy rate will need to be higher for longer. And Richmond Federal Reserve President Thomas Barkin, he said it makes sense to steer more deliberately, to be very careful, adding that, yes, the last 3 months inflation prints have been going down, but the median has stayed quite high. The big question, Onye, is whether prices will be able to continue falling all the way towards the 2% target, or whether inflation will plateau somewhere far north of where the central bank would like to be. Much of the slowdown in December, of course, was due to fall in gasoline prices, helped, which brought down the energy index by about 4.5% last month alone. Goods prices also fell over the month, declining 0.3% in December as the cost of both new and used cars dropped. Housing costs, which came in hotter than expected, of course, accounted for the bulk of the strength in core prices. The shelter index rose 0.8% over the month. Services also ticking up, rose 0.4%. Some are going down, some are going up. It's not a broad-based improvement, as we can see, and that is going to make the Fed very careful. So I would say the pivot in hikes is not going to come very soon. We are still going to see very aggressive, well, not very aggressive, going to see rate hikes and possibly even going back up. There are three themes I wanted to just close that are driving or abating inflation. One, deglobalization, the resource nationalization, trade wars, and acceleration of supply chains towards reshoring, onshoring, inflationary. Europe first, America first, UK first, China first. It means high prices for everybody. Second, the continued war in Ukraine further disrupted supply chains, especially energy supply, and this looks set to continue. And the decarbonization, although it helps the environment, it can be fiscally expansive and potentially inflationary. Again, we are still in an era of shortages, post-pandemic. Skills are in short supply, raw materials, critical inputs, resources haven't really come back to the full the supply that is required to meet especially the pent-up demand as people have accumulated savings and have started to shop more aggressively. So that is increasing the demand pool. 2% inflation in the medium term, as far as I'm concerned, is looking illusory and is very unlikely. And central banks are beginning to sense it. And even the risks, I would say, are looking more to the upside.
Well, just before I let you go away from the UK, now we see that in Italy, the government is thinking of reducing excise taxes. Now, what else do we know about this?
Well, the bottom line is voters will forgive fiscal rebels, but they will not tolerate cost of living pressures for long. So, yes, it's going to be fiscally difficult, if not impossible, for them to reduce these excise taxes when you look at the costs. But you can understand why. One, already Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has defended the decision not to extend the price rebate on fuel prices, preferring to spend resources on what they are calling more targeted measures for the poor. If you are just reducing excise taxes, that's a more general type of rebate that affects everybody almost equally. In Italy, more than 50% of the price of petrol and diesel comprises excise duties and VAT sales tax. So there's a lot there. But as Europe is getting embroiled with protests, UK protests, France protests, my suspicion is that governments will find ways to stay in power, pay less attention to fiscal discipline as the wave of discontent increases.
Well, thank you very much, Bode, for joining us on the show this morning. Always a pleasure to have you on this show. I've been speaking to, of course, Arise business analyst from London, Bode Oshosomi. You're watching Global Business Report here on Arise News. Coming up on the show, clearly so much more to talk about in the world of business. South Africa's finance minister says government policy is useless without power. Stay tuned.
A reflection of the Nigerian never say die spirit. They never stay down. You're always thinking of how to improve. You're always thinking of how to move forward. My name is Emmanuel Ahimieho. I've been a civil engineer for 18 years. I'm the project manager of Obajana Kaba Road. The Obajana Kaba Road is 43 kilometers built completely of concrete pavement. We started work on December 2016. I remember when we came here, it was virtually lifeless. We're building a road that we know will need very minimal maintenance. It's a road that we don't need to rush back to in 5 years, trying to carry out major maintenance work. We don't need to import anything that we need on the road. They are all locally available materials. All the cement we use on this road is from Dangote Cement Factory, which is the largest cement factory in Africa. The sand is from the communities, so people from the community,